See, so if you want to know about me, I'm this previous aspirant. Okay, so by graduation, I was a mechanical engineer from BITS Pilani. Then after that, I prepared for civil services. So I gave about some 5 mains and a couple of interviews I have given. So then thereafter, I entered into the coaching field, and it is my 6th year teaching. So from the past 6 years, I have been teaching, and I have taught at various centers of Shubhraranjan IAS. Then apart from that, I taught earlier at Insights, and multiple number of places I have been teaching, and over the past 6 years, this has been my profession, and so that's the case. So then apart from that, the thing is, now for this stay of mine, my mandate has been to teach post-independent India. Okay, so when it comes to this post-independent India, so what do you think that will be the part of the syllabus for this section, sir? What do you expect post-independent India to contain? I want the class to be a little interactive. Okay, try to speak. What do you expect post-independent India to have? So which are the important events which have happened after the independence of India, like emergency? Okay, so then apart from this, there are many other topics, sir. Okay, so whatever events that happened post 1947 in India, so those are the areas that we are going to focus upon. And this is a section, okay, which is at the interface of, okay, international relations on one side, polity on the other. Okay, then apart from that, some important social issues के बारे में भी हम लोग बात कर सकते हैं post independent India में. So that is the reason why this is considered to be a background subject, even though the direct number of questions in UPSC are a little lesser. Okay, I'll show you the number of questions too, which have been asked from this section. Even though the direct number of questions are a little less, this subject will give you a good background in order to understand the other subjects, and it will also help you in writing the answers for applied questions, sir. Okay, primarily because in most of UPSC preparation, the subjects are dealt very discreetly, sir. Very, very discreetly they are dealt. Okay, polity is dealt completely separately from the other sections. So, but post-independent India, what it does is, it brings about an interface between the various things, sir. Are you following this? Okay, it brings about an interface between various things. So that is the reason why this is considered to be an important subject, and we will try to make it as simple and as easy as possible. So I think you have got the handouts for this section, or some material has been shared with you. PPT means you should take a printout of it, sir. You should take a printout of it. No. You have to, I'll tell you a method. So this is a PDF, not PPT. This is a PDF. You have to get printed 2 slides in 1 page. Are you following this? Okay, so that 4 slides will come in a single paper, so that it will be a little lesser. Okay, and it will give you a lot of space for you also to write. No, it's not a problem. I have done it. Okay, in Jammu also students have taken a printout. Pune, I have done it in multiple number of centers. There will not be any issue, sir. You go to a printer and you ask him, okay, he will print it out. There will not be an issue, because the color, anyhow you are going to take a black and white printout. So the background black will become white. It's not going to be a problem. Okay, I'm sure about it. I have done it before too. So please, you can take it out. Alright. Okay, so at least by next class or post break, you try to get the handout printed, sir, so that whatever additional points that I discuss in class, you can get a chance to write them down, okay, at the same place. Otherwise, what happens is there will be 2 materials, okay, 1 class note dictated, okay, and I don't tend to dictate all the points that I am discussing, sir, because most of them will be in the handout. Some additional points here and there I am going to, okay, definitely dictate. So you have to get a printout of the handouts, so that will be better and more convenient for you. It will not take much space, sir. Okay, each handout will come around some 10-15 pages. Only one handout is 20 pages, and in total we have roughly around some 5 handouts. Is it alright? So then apart from this, for post-independent India section, many students ask me about the book list, okay, which you have to read. Okay, kaun sa book padhna hai? Okay, iske liye. See, my suggestion would be, I don't suggest any additional reading material for this section, sir. Primarily because as it is, we have lot many books to read for history section, sir. So for this section, I don't suggest you guys to read any additional textbook except for one NCERT book. You know about this NCERT book called Politics in India After Independence. So this is a class 11th NCERT. for political science. So that book you have to take it out and you have to read parallelly along with my classes, sir. Okay, Politics in India Post Independence is the book's name. So it is a very, very good book, very short, crisp story of Indian politics post independence is given. So that book you have to read because NCERTs anyhow they represent the basic study material for you. Are you following this? So this is the only book that you have to read. Otherwise, so most of the things are covered in the handout, sir. Yes. So now I want to start my class with a very simple question. So what is the meaning of history, sir? What is the meaning of history? Any guess, any answer from you guys would be much appreciated. What is the meaning of history? What is history? Because we are studying history, right? Yes. So what is the meaning of history? Study of the past. Yes. Okay, so which is a very, very simple definition and straightforward one. But do we study everything about the past, sir? Do we read about every person? Huh? Do we read about every person? Do we read about every event in history or every day in history? So what we are going to do, sir? So we are going to discuss the things which are important things we are going to study in a chronological fashion, then it is going to be history, sir. Are you following this? Yes. But what is important, sir? Is what is important in the past, will it remain static, sir? Is what is important in past, okay, past में हमको जो important है वो change नहीं होता है कि बदलते ही कि नहीं? Does it change or doesn't it change, sir? What is important in the past? It changes, right? So how does it change? What is the basis for change in what is important in the past, sir? So I'll tell you one small example. So initially at the time of Indian independence, there was excessive emphasis on the Nehru-Gandhi family and their contribution to Indian independence, right? Okay, but today we are talking about the other prominent leaders of Indian independence like Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Subhash Chandra Bose. So isn't the past changing, sir? Our focus on the events in past, is it shifting or not, sir? Is it not shifting? It's definitely shifting. Earlier, okay, so Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was not considered to be a very, very important personality. But today, okay, any story of Indian history or Indian constitution cannot exempt Dr. B.R. Ambedkar from it. Yes or not, sir? Then along with that, one more important thing that happened in the today's world is there is a lot of focus on women's contribution to Indian history. Is it true or not, sir? Then apart from women contribution, there is today focus on the tribal history of India. Is it true or not, sir? Earlier was it the focus, sir? Earlier the focus was mainly on some prominent personalities in Indian history, and the history is a story or a story of wars, and the most prominent leaders of history is what we studied earlier, sir. But today we are moving away from it and we are focusing on the earlier neglected sections like the women's history, okay, the history of some earlier neglected personalities. We are focusing on the tribal history. So this way what is happening is what we focus upon on the past, it is changing according to the demands of the today's world, sir. Are you following this? Okay, earlier because there was no women's movement, okay, there was no focus on women's role in society, sir. But today what is happening is as the women's movements and women leaders are emerging, they are searching for their heroes in the past. Are you following this? Okay, now as the political establishment at center has changed, it is trying to create an alternative history for itself. Yes or no? Earlier when Indian National Congress was governing the country for so long, the central focus was Nehru-Gandhi family. But today with this changing political establishment, what is happening? We are changing what we are studying from the past. Is it true or not, sir? So that is the reason why history as a subject, it is considered to be a dynamic subject which is going to change according to the demands and the needs of today, sir. Is it making sense? So please write down one statement. History is a chronological narrative. A chronological narrative about important events from the past. History is a chronological narrative about important events in the past. Important events in the past. Full stop. But what is important? What is important? Important. Changes continuously. Changes continuously according to the needs of present. Changes continuously according to the needs of the present. Full stop. According to the needs of the present. Full stop. History is considered as a continuous dialogue. History is considered as a continuous dialogue between the past and present. Continuous dialogue between the past and present, with each influencing the other. Continuous dialogue between the past and present, with each influencing the other. With each influencing the other. Is it clear, sir? Are you understanding this definition, sir? So it means that history definitely is a dynamic subject which is going to change with time, and UPSC is well aware about these kind of changes, sir. Are you following this? So that is the reason why if you look at the previous year questions of UPSC, they are asking questions like what is the women's contributions to Indian national movement. Okay, so then at one point of time they asked a question 2 saying that what would have been the nature of Indian national movement without a personality like Gandhiji. Okay, earlier the entire history was centered on Gandhiji, right? But now they are asking us to write an answer on the basis of, okay, a history. They are asking us to imagine a history without Gandhiji, sir. Are you following this? So it means that, okay, so we have to write about what would have been the nature of Indian national movement without a personality like Gandhiji. So is it not a change in perspective towards history, sir? Definitely it is a change in perspective towards history. Yes. So discuss about the tribal contribution to Indian national movement was one more question, sir. Are you following this? So this way they are focusing on the hitherto or earlier unfocused areas of history पे अभी focus करके वहाँ से question पूछ रहे हैं, sir. Are you following this? And this applies to even post-independent India too. In post-independent India, rather than asking questions about which are centered primarily on the first Indian Prime Minister, UPSC in post-independent India mainly focused on the non-Congress leaders of Indian post-independent India, sir. Not non-Congress, not the non-Gandhi family leaders के बारे में question पूछा गया था, sir. So once, or not once, twice there was a question on Lal Bahadur Shastri. You know about Lal Bahadur Shastri, the second Prime Minister of India. उसके बारे में तो 2 बार question पूछा गया है, sir. Then apart from that, they are also focusing in post-independent India on areas like integration of princely states, which was not given due importance earlier, okay, because it was primarily the handiwork of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. You might be knowing about integration of princely states into Indian Union, right? So this way they are focusing on the areas which are not given due importance in earlier historical writings, sir. Is it clear? So there you write one example beneath the definition. The focus of history today shifted to social and economic events along with a focus on women's contributions to history, women's contribution to history, Yes, that's the case, sir. That is one example. Full stop you put. Okay. So that is the case with the changing focus of history, sir. So earlier I once asked this question on what is history in one of my classes, sir. Okay, one student has very confidently said that history is nothing but his story. Okay, history is the most simplest definition for history is it is his story बोल के उसने बोला था. So but the problem with this definition is it completely excludes her, right? Yes or no? So if it is just his story, then what about her story? Who is going to tell that? Okay, so that is the reason why today what is happening is there is a change in focus in history, sir. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Is it making sense? So that is the definition of history, sir. So now we are going to have a first brief discussion on the flow of events in post-independent India, sir. So first I will give one index for the entire course that we are going to take up. So the index may, I will give brief description on each event that occurred in post-independent India. Then after that, when we are dealing with the subject, we are going to have a more elaborate discussion on the said issues, sir. Is it alright? So first, just consider it to be an introductory class, and I will just give one detailed index of the events which occurred in post-independent India, and this will provide us a proper chronology on the things which happened to, sir. Is it clear? So first and foremost, the thing is, before having any discussion on post-independent India, we need to discuss about two major events, sir. One is, what is the British legacy over post-independent India, sir? Okay, what is the British legacy over post-independent India is the first question, and this has been asked as an essay too at one point of time in UPSC. So what is the British legacy over post-independent India is the first topic that we are going to talk about, sir. Then after the British legacy, the second topic we are going to discuss is what is the contribution of Indian national movement, or what is the legacy of Indian national movement to post-independent India is the second topic that we are going to discuss. Then after discussing about the Indian national movement's legacy and the British legacy, the next topic that we are going to talk about is the topic of challenges which post-independent India was facing, sir. The next topic is the challenges which post-independent India is facing at the time of its independence. We are going to discuss about. Then after the challenges, what we are going to do is we are going to have a discussion on the constitution making of India, sir. Okay, this is an important topic. Okay, usually in polity it is dealt with from a legal perspective, but here we are going to deal with the said subject matter from a historical perspective, sir. So we are going to discuss about the constitution making. Okay, then after discussing about the constitution making procedure, we are going to talk about the topic of partition of India, which is a very, very important topic. So partition of India. So what were the causes for partition? What are the consequences of partition? Okay, what kind of human suffering we have seen during partition is a very, very important topic, and we are going to have a thoroughgoing discussion on the topic of partition, sir. Then after partition, what we are going to do is we are going to have a discussion on the topic of integration of princely states, sir. Okay, this is a very, very important topic. So it is the integration of princely states, and integration of princely states is going to be the next topic. And once we discuss about the integration of princely states, the next topic we are going to talk about is we are going to talk about the language issue in post-independent India, sir. This is one of the most important issue in post-independent India, that is the language issue. And in language issue, we are going to talk about two aspects, sir. One is linguistic reorganization of states, which is a very, very important topic. Then apart from the linguistic reorganization of states, we are going to talk about the official language issues, sir. Two topics we are going to talk about. One is linguistic reorganization of states, and the second one is official language issue. Okay, so these are the two topics on which UPSC asked questions multiple number of times, sir. Okay, official language issue is one, and the second one is the linguistic reorganization of states. And after the integration of princely states, we are going to talk about these topics. And in integration of princely states, we are going to have a thoroughgoing discussion on the integration of princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, sir. Okay, primarily because this is one very controversial subject matter. So about this we are going to talk about. So this is going to be a very, very important topic in integration of princely states, and this integration of princely states has been asked as a question in UPSC mains twice between 2013 to 2023, sir. Okay, दो बार क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ प्रिंसली स्टेट्स के बारे में. उसके बाद में हम लोग लैंग्वेज इशू बात करेंगे. लैंग्वेज इशू में सो लिंग्विस्टिक रिऑर्गनाइजेशन ऑफ स्टेट्स इज वन एंड official language issue is the second one. So these are the important language issues that we are going to talk about. And once we talk about these language issues, the next topic that we are going to talk about is we are going to have a discussion on the tribal policy of Indian government, sir. Okay, this is an important topic, the tribal policy of Indian government in post-independent India. So particularly this topic of tribal panchsheel, its implementation, okay, or its non-implementation, what happened to the tribals of India, what kind of protections were given to the tribal sections of Indian society is something which we are going to talk about, sir. Then apart from this, the next topic that we are going to discuss about is, okay, the foreign policy of Jawaharlal Nehru, sir. This is a very important topic from the perspective of international relations too. This is an important topic, sir. And here, when we're talking about this foreign policy of Jawaharlal Nehru, we will discuss about the idealism in his foreign policy, which is very, very important. And along with idealism, we are going to discuss about the nature of non-aligned movements. Okay, this has been asked in UPSC as a mains question multiple number of times. What is the nature of this non-alignment movement? Okay, so is it relevant today or not? Okay, what are the important outcomes of the non-alignment movement? Okay, these kind of questions have been asked. So we are going to have a thoroughgoing discussion on non-alignment. Okay, his idealism. Along with that, we are going to have a discussion on, okay, the panchsheel of Nehru, sir. Okay, panchsheel of Nehru is the next topic that we are going to talk about. So here I am just discussing about the political issues, economic and social issues I will discuss separately, sir. First, we are going to run through the political issues of post-independent India. Then after that, we will come back to the issues like planning, green revolution in economic line. So each section में separately हम लोग discuss करेंगे उसके बारे में. So यहाँ पे idealism, non-alignment movement and panchsheel are the important aspects of the foreign policy of Jawaharlal Nehru, sir. Then after discussing these things, what we are going to discuss is we are going to talk about the issue of the India-China war, sir. Okay, the India-China war. Okay, it is a very, very important issue. So particularly the issue of this line of actual control today. So what is the historical background of this line of actual control? Why did India and China fight a war after all? Okay, primarily because just before India has signed a agreement of cooperation with China, which is called as Panchsheel. But despite of signing this agreement, why did the Chinese attack India? So what is the nature of this Indo-China war we are going to talk about, sir? Is it clear? Then after discussing the Indo-China war, the next topic that we are going to talk about is, okay, we are going to have an assessment of Jawaharlal Nehru, sir. Okay, assessment of Jawaharlal Nehru's period in Indian history, and as part of this assessment itself, we are going to discuss about the contributions of Jawaharlal Nehru, particularly to science and technology in India, sir. This is very, very important topic. So primarily because this year, okay, with the landing of Chandrayaan, there is a lot of focus on Indian science. Okay, but the origin or the basis for Indian science, it was laid during the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, sir. Okay, most of the scientific organizations, technological organizations, educational institutions that we have today, most of them, their foundation was laid during the time of Jawaharlal Nehru. So that is the reason why we are going to have a thorough discussion on Jawaharlal Nehru's contribution to science and technology. And along with that, we are going to have a fair assessment of the prime ministership of Jawaharlal Nehru, sir. Because in post-independent India, he governed as the prime minister of the country for nearly how many years, sir? Is it 17? If you include the time when he was interim prime minister, then it is 17, sir. Okay, otherwise it is roughly around 14 years. Post-independent India में वो 1951 से so 63 तक 64 तक he was prime minister. So it was roughly around 14 years was the time of his prime ministership, sir. Is it clear? So we are going to have a discussion on the evaluation of Jawaharlal Nehru, primarily because his personality has become a lot controversial in today's world, sir. So we are going to have a look at a very objective look at Jawaharlal Nehru. So that is one question that we are going to handle. Then after that, after Jawaharlal Nehru, we are going to discuss about the period of Lal Bahadur Shastri, sir. Okay, Lal Bahadur Shastri, okay, a very brief tenure as prime minister. He did not face any election too. Okay, but during his period, India faced numerous crises, sir. Okay, one of the most prominent crises is during his period only. Okay, there was the threat of famine in India, sir. There was a threat of famine, not actual famine. Threat of famine. There was food grains scarcity. So, and how he handled this food grain scarcity, okay, is very, very important. And we are going to have a look at Lal Bahadur Shastri's contribution to Green Revolution, sir. Okay, so Green Revolution is one aspect that we are going to discuss about. Then along with that, we are going to discuss about the Indo-Pak War of 1965, sir. This is a very, very important war, Indo-Pak War of 1965. So what are the events which led to this war? What was the role and contribution of Lal Bahadur Shastri? We are going to discuss about them. Then along with that, we are going to discuss about the agreement which is an outcome of this Indo-Pak War of 1965, which is called as Tashkent Agreement. Okay, Tashkent Agreement के बारे में भी UPSC में मेंस में क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था, सर. So Tashkent Agreement, what are the conditions of Tashkent Agreement, what are the provisions of Tashkent Agreement, these kind of questions have been asked. So we are going to have a look at the provisions of the Tashkent Agreement, sir. Then after discussing about the Tashkent Agreement, Lal Bahadur Shastri period ends here. So then after that we are going to discuss about the Indira Gandhi's rise to power, sir. Okay, Indira Gandhi's rise to power. So how she became the Prime Minister, who supported her. So, and after becoming the Prime Minister, what we are going to have a look at is the turn towards socialism by Indira Gandhi, sir. Indira Gandhi's turn towards socialism, like nationalization of banks, nationalization of oil, nationalization of petroleum, okay, nationalization of coal. She has conducted nationalization of numerous segments of Indian economy. So what this nationalization is all about, and what is her turn towards socialism, and along with that we are going to have a discussion on the license permit Raj system which has been established by Indira Gandhi, sir. Okay, license permit Raj it is called as. So this is very important for us from the point of view of economy. So what this license permit Raj is all about, okay, what kind of regulations were present. So all of these aspects we are going to talk about in, yes please, Indira Gandhi's turn towards socialism. And once we discuss about Indira Gandhi's turn towards socialism, next topic that we are going to discuss is, we are going to discuss about the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971, sir. Okay, which is a very, very important event. And on this also, on Shimla Accord, there was a question in UPSC at one point of time. So this is an important topic. Okay, post-war, Indian government has signed an agreement which is called as the Shimla Accord, and the war was fought in the year 1971. And what is the Bangladesh Liberation War? Why did India involve in this civil war of Pakistan? Okay, and what circumstances led to the liberation of Bangladesh is a very, very important topic from the UPSC point of view. So we are going to have a thoroughgoing discussion on the the Bangladesh Liberation War or Indo-Pakistan War of 1971, sir. Then after that, it ended with an agreement which is called a Shimla Agreement. So what are the conditions of the Shimla Agreement? Okay, what is the outcome of the Shimla Agreement also we are going to have a discussion about, sir. Then after discussing about the war of 1971, the next important political event during the time of Indira Gandhi's period is, okay, the imposition of emergency. Okay, so even though as of now there was no question in UPSC mains on emergency, but many issues associated with emergency have been asked in politics. Okay, particularly the conflict between Indian judiciary and the executive. Okay, ऐसा questions बहुत बार polity में पूछा गया था. So we are going to have a look at the causes of emergency and what are the consequences of emergency, what happened during the time of emergency. So these are all the topics that we are going to discuss about. And nearly India was roughly for more than 2 years, sir, for nearly 28 months, if I am not wrong, not 28 or 23 months. Okay, 23 months India was under emergency, sir. So what conditions led to this emergency? All these topics we are going to have a discussion on in the topic of emergency, sir. And once we are done with emergency, what we are going to do is we are going to move to the topic of the Janata rule, sir. Okay, Janata rule for 28 months. Okay, they ruled nearly for 4 months. So what is this Janata rule? So what happened during the Janata rule? What is the kind of coalition politics which started from the time of Janata rule? We are going to talk about, sir. And once we discuss about this Janata rule, the next topic that we have to talk about is the rise of regionalism in India, sir. Okay, because during the Indira Gandhi's time itself, because of the excessive centralization policies, what happened is regionalism emerged as a very strong force countering Indira Gandhi's authority, sir. And as part of this regionalism, there are some regionalisms, okay, which are in fact trying to promote the interest of the region, okay, trying to promote the interest of the region or the state, and numerous regional parties have emerged during this time, sir. Okay, what is the nature of these regional parties? Okay, why did they emerge, on what issues, and what topics they have talked about, and what is the impact of these regional parties we are going to talk about. Then apart from that, the excessive form of regionalism, it itself got converted into secessionism, sir. Okay, the meaning of secessionism is what? Ever heard this term secessionism? Separation. Secessionism means separation from the union, and during the time of Indira Gandhi's second tenure post-emergency and Janata rule, numerous secessionist movements have started in India, sir. Numerous secessionist movements have started in India, and one secessionist movement which had a great impact on India at that point of time is the Punjab secessionist movement, which is also called as Khalistani movement. Okay, these days again we see some news about the Khalistani terrorists, right? Particularly they are reasserting themselves in UK, okay, Canada and other places. So we are going to have a discussion on what factors led to this Khalistani movement, how it was suppressed, and as part of that itself I will talk about Operation Blue Star, which finally led to the assassination of Indira Gandhi, So all these topics we are going to discuss as part of this Punjab secessionist movement. Then along with that, during the second tenure of Indira Gandhi itself, okay, secessionist movement started in Jammu and Kashmir too, sir. Okay, here already we have talked about the Jammu and Kashmir integration into Indian Union. Okay, I will talk about that. Now we are going to discuss about the secessionism and terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, sir. Are you following this? Then after discussing about Jammu and Kashmir, okay, one more important secessionist movement in India is the Northeast secessionist movement, sir. Even though they started before Indira Gandhi, during Indira Gandhi's period, some of them became very, very virulent, okay, very violent, some of them became. So we are going to have a discussion on the Northeast separatist movements in India too. So these are the three things that we are going to discuss as part of this topic of regionalism, sir. Is it clear? Yes. So once we have a discussion on this, the next topic that we are going to discuss about is the rise of Rajiv Gandhi to power, the positives of his period, okay, what negative impacts have happened during the period of Rajiv Gandhi's tenure. We are going to have a discussion on. Then post Rajiv Gandhi, what we are going to discuss is, we are going to discuss about the rise of communalism in India. Okay, particularly we are going to discuss about the topic of the Mandir politics in India. Okay, the Ram Mandir, Ram Janmabhoomi issue. So, and how it became a very significant issue in India. Okay, post Rajiv Gandhi, we are going to discuss about that. Okay, we are going to discuss about the Babri Masjid demolition and the communal riots which occurred after that. And parallel to this Mandir politics, in India, there was one more politics which came into being, which is called as Mandal politics, sir. Okay, Mandal politics is OBC politics, sir. So what is this Mandir versus Mandal politics? We are going to have a discussion on. So, and we are going to have a clear look on the rise of communalism in India. Okay, while discussing about this Mandir versus Mandal politics, sir. Primarily because the decade between 1991 to 2000 is the worst hit communal period of Indian history, sir. In post-independent India, that is the worst period of communalism between 1991 to 2000. So what are the objective circumstances for the rise of communalism at this point of time? What is this Ram Janmabhoomi issue? We are going to have a discussion on, because it has an impact on today's politics too, sir. Is it clear? So on 1991 to 2000 is also the period of coalition politics in India, sir. Coalition politics in India, uske बारे में बात करेंगे. Then after that we are going to discuss about the period of the first period of Vajpayee, and after that we are going to stop our discussion there, sir, on the political line of history, because after that whatever is there, it is not part of history, it is part of current affairs. Are you following this? Okay, we are not going to extend ourselves further, so we are going to end it there, and along with that we are going to have a thoroughgoing discussion on the nuclear history of India, sir. So which can be asked as a very, very good question, the nuclear history of India. Okay, so this nuclear history, what this nuclear history is, why did we become a nuclear weapons based state? Okay, what is the origin for this? What are the nuclear tests that have been conducted by India? What is today's India's nuclear doctrine? Okay, all of these aspects we are going to discuss about in the nuclear history of India. That is also a topic of political line of history, sir. Is it clear? Okay, so did you understand the flow of events, sir? So one is, first and foremost, we are going to start with the British legacy, and we are going to end with the nuclear history of India, sir. So this is the entire political line of history, and once we are done with the political line of history, what we are going to do is we are going to pick up the economic line of history in India, sir. And when it comes to this economic line in history, first and foremost we are going to have a discussion on the topic of planning in Indian economy, sir. Okay, what this planning is all about. Okay, क्या चल रहा था यहाँ पे? Okay, what is planning, and what is the objective of planning? Why did we adopt planning? All of these things we are going to discuss about in the first part. Then after discussing about planning, we are going to move to the next topic, that is the Green Revolution in India, sir. Okay, which is a very, very important topic from the economic point of view. So that is Green Revolution in India we are going to talk about. And after discussing about Green Revolution, okay, what is the other economic topic? See the handout once. Handout देख लीजिए एक बार. Okay, Green Revolution के बाद, okay, the topic of economy that we are going to discuss about is planning, Green Revolution. Then I think we have to discuss about the cooperative movement in India, sir. It's a success, failure. Okay, all these aspects we are going to discuss about. This is a very, very important topic. Okay, both from the point of view of post-independent India and polity. The cooperative movement in India, it's a success, failure, and the evaluation of the cooperative movement is a very, very important topic, sir. Then after the cooperative movement, what is the other topic in land reforms? Yes, very, very important topic, sir. Even before Green Revolution, we have to discuss about land reforms. And as part of land reforms, already there was a question on a movement which is called as Bhudan and Gramdan movement in post-independent India, sir. Bhudan, Gramdan क्या था और land reforms का aim क्या था, and why were land reforms not very successful in India? All these aspects we are going to talk about in the issue of land reforms. green revolution, cooperative movement, and what other topic is there in economic line? There is an issue called, okay, CDP, sir. Okay, CDP means Community Development Program. Okay, this Community Development Program is a program whose failure led to the emergence of Panchayat Raj institutions in India, sir. Okay, so that is the reason why this CDP program is also important for us. So we will read about this CDP program, Community Development Program, which led to the emergence of Panchayat Raj institutions in India. So this is one topic that we are going to talk about. Then any other economic topic apart from CDP? LPG. Yes, LPG reforms is one more topic, sir. 1991. So what factors led us to adopt this LPG reforms? What is the story of LPG? What is the outcome of LPG? We are going to discuss about in this topic, sir. Is it clear? So ranging from planning to land reforms, green revolution, cooperatives, CDP to Panchayat Raj. Then after that, the last topic is LPG reforms in India, sir. Is it clear? So, which one? Bank nationalization we'll talk about in Indira Gandhi's period only. I talked about the Indira Gandhi's turn towards socialism, right? So there itself I'll talk about nationalization program and license permit Raj के बारे में भी वहीं पे बात करूँगा, ठीक है? Yes. So then after this economic line, the last line of history that we need to discuss is the social line of Indian history. Okay, and while discussing the social line of Indian history, the first and most important topic for us is this topic of Hindu Code Bill, sir. Okay, what is this Hindu Code Bill? Okay, so and what are these Hindu Civil Code Acts? Okay, so what is the controversy behind enactment of these acts? And once we understand this Hindu Code Bill, then we will understand, okay, what is this demand for uniform civil code also we will understand, sir. Okay, this is also an important topic in Indian history, sir. So the transition from Hindu Code Bill to the demand for, okay, a uniform civil code for India. Okay, but uniform civil code, it has been asked as a question multiple number of times in UPSC, sir. Okay, so what is this policy of uniform civil code? We are going to have a discussion on. Then after the uniform civil code, the next topic that we are going to discuss is in the social history, the women movements in post-independent India, sir. Women movements, okay, what is the nature of women movements in India? So what happened to the post-independent Indian women's movement? Okay, so these topics we are going to discuss about. Then after the women movement, okay, in post-independent India, there was a significant, okay, stream of environmental movements in post-independent India, sir. Okay, what are these environmental movements? What they achieved to do, what they tried to do, were they successful in achieving their aims? All these issues we are going to discuss about in the environmental movements. Then post-environmental movements, we are going to discuss about this movement of, okay, Dalit politics in post-independent India, sir. Okay, Dalit politics in post-independent India. This is also an important topic, sir. So Dalit politics in post-independent India, we are going to discuss about as part of the social history. Then along with the Dalit politics, we are going to discuss about this issue of Naxal movement in post-independent India, sir. Okay, so one which is very relevant to the state that we are present in today. Okay, so this Naxal movement, what is the origin of this Naxal movement? What is the impact of the Naxal movement? Okay, so all these aspects we are going to discuss as part of this topic, sir. This is also part of the social history. Then along with that, okay, one more topic that we are going to discuss is the farmer movements in post-independent India, sir. Okay, farmer movements in post-independent India. This is also an important topic, sir. Okay, what kind of farmer movements were present in post-independent India? What is the nature of farmer movements in India? All these aspects we are going to discuss as part of this farmer movement, sir. So this way we have somewhere around some 35-40 topics as part of post-independent India, sir. And each index point, it can be picked up and asked as a full-fledged question, sir. And these social aspects in post-independent India, they form the foundation for today's society. The economic aspects that we discuss about, they form the foundation for today's economy. The political aspects that we discuss, they form the foundation for today's politics, sir. So this way, this subject is a very, very good applied subject, sir. Are you following? It will give you very good perspective into the said issues, and along with that, it will also provide proper historical background for any UPSC questions, sir. Most of the UPSC questions on polity, okay, economy or society, they can be answered, or you get a proper historical perspective into the said issue if you study the post-independent India, sir. So that is the reason why this subject is considered to be a backgrounder subject. Backgrounder subject means it provides the background for, okay, the study of other subjects, sir. Is it clear? Okay, so that is the significance of this subject, sir. Now, okay, so as we have done the index, okay, any questions still here? Any questions still here, or any additional topics that you want me to discuss from post-independent India? Space history I'll talk about in science and technology. Okay, science and technology जवाहरलाल नेहरू का पीरियड में मैं बात करता हूँ, उसके साथ साथ में थोड़ा I will introduce about ISRO also. what are its great contributions and stuff because of the Chandrayaan-3 mission. So this year it is a highly relevant question, sir, in mains. Okay, let's see. Most probably in 15 days the mains examination is there, right? Yes. आपको पता है कि नहीं कि मेंस का एग्जाम है 15 दिन में, तो उसके देखेंगे क्वेश्चन पेपर. ओके, सो बट वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट इसरो हिस्ट्री, सर. ओके, विल डू इट. एनी अदर टॉप? व्हिच वन? स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट एज पार्ट ऑफ दिस हिंदू कोड बिल ओनली. हिंदू कोड बिल में ही स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट के बारे में बात करेंगे हम लोग. ओके, सो व्हाट इज द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ दैट स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट आल्सो वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट. एनी अदर? Which one? Defense. Defense history is usually not asked as a question in UPSC, sir. So we are going to discuss about the war history of post-independent India. As part of war history, we are going to discuss even about Kargil war too. Okay, but not defense history, sir. Not defense history. Defense का तो question यहाँ पे आता नहीं. So that is the reason why we will not going to do it. Any other topic? Any other topic? So we have done an exhaustive account of the topics, right? Yes. Okay. So any other topic that you can think of in post-independent India? Yeah, because this is something which is a very recent history, sir. Okay, most of our parents' generation also are direct witness to this section. So they might have talked to us about these kind of things. Okay. So these kind of things are very common knowledge, sir. So that is the reason why I am asking. Any other topics that you can suggest? No, right? Yes. Okay, so now first and foremost we will start with the first topic of our discussion, sir. Okay, first topic of our discussion. So let's have a look at the first topic. The first topic that we need to discuss is what is the legacy of the British rule over India, sir. So what is the legacy of British rule over India? So this is the first topic that we need to discuss. British legacy over India. So what is the British legacy, sir? Is it positive, negative? It is mixed. Okay, so there is some positive impact and along with that there is also some negative impact of the British colonial rule, okay, which governed the Indian provinces for nearly 200 years. Okay, 200 years of colonial rule, it ended in 1947. But okay, this colonial impact, it was very adverse on post-independent India, sir. Okay, first and foremost, we are going to discuss about the negative impacts of the British colonial rule. Then after that, we will go to the positive impact of the British colonial rule over India, sir. So what is the negative impact of the British colonial rule? Tell me. Okay, first and foremost, okay, it led to huge poverty in India. Yes or no, sir? One important outcome of the British colonial rule is poverty in India. In fact, before the entry of the British rulers into India, India was in fact contributing 1/3 to global manufacturing, sir. 1/3 of global manufacturing, that means 33% of all the goods which are being produced in the world, they were being produced in India, sir. Then along with that, India also contributed 2/3 to the global trade, sir. India contributed 2/3 to global trade. Then along with that, 1/3 of the global manufacturing, it used to occur in India before the entry of the Britishers into the Indian subcontinent, sir. So 2/3 of global commerce, it used to pass through India. 1/3 of the global manufacturing, it used to occur in India. And from this situation, by the end of the British colonial rule, India as a country, it became a completely deindustrialized and import dependent economy, sir. What India became? India became an import dependent and a deindustrialized economy. And majority of the Indian population, they were dependent on agricultural activities, sir. Are you following this? So this is one important contribution of the British colonial rule is India's poverty. From a nation which is contributing 1/3 to the global manufacturing and 2/3 to the global trade and commerce, it became completely import dependent economy by the end of the British rule in India, sir. Are you following this? This is the first important contribution. Then the most important statistic which proves that India became a deindustrialized country by the end of the British colonial rule is nearly 82% of the Indian population, it was living in rural areas by the end of the British rule. Are you following this? 82% of the Indian population, they were living in rural areas and only 17% of the population was urban population. This clearly proves that there is more dependency on agriculture in Indian economy at that point of time. Are you following this, sir? So this is one important statistic that we can use in order to prove that India became deindustrialized and it became an agriculture dependent economy, sir. One. Then the second important contribution of the British colonial rule is, apart from the poverty, the negative impact of the British colonial rule is, by the end of the British colonial rule in India, the average life expectancy among the Indian population is 32 years. Okay, the average life expectancy of the Indian population is just 32 years. So which is very, very less, right? So today what is our average life expectancy, sir? 70 years. Okay, somewhere around 70 years is the average life expectancy. But at the end of the British rule, the average life expectancy of Indians was just 32 years of age, sir. Okay, primarily this 32 years of age is because of the numerous famines and pandemics which occurred during the British colonial rule, sir. And the British colonial rule in India, it started with a great famine in Bengal, and it also ended with a great famine in Bengal region, sir. Okay, two famines occurred at the start of the British rule and one at the end of the British rule, and British rule ke time pe nearly 23 famines have struck India, sir. Okay, during the 200 years of colonial rule, 23 famines occurred. Almost every decade there was a famine, sir. Are you following this? Okay, so and the Britishers used to blame the climate of India for famines, sir. But if the climate is the contribution for famines, in post-independent India also we should have famines. With British exit from India, did Indian climate change, sir? नहीं हुआ था ना. पर फिर भी in the past 70 years of post-independent Indian history, not even a single famine has occurred, sir. Are you following this? So which clearly proves that most of the famines were man-made famines during the British rule, and these famines, they led to the average life expectancy falling down to 32 years, sir. Are you following this? Then the third thing is, with respect to the British colonial rule, the British always claim that they have introduced and they have educated Indians, right? Introduced Indians to Western education, and they have educated Indians is one of the main claim of the Britishers in India, sir. But at the time when the Britishers were leaving India, the average literacy rate of Indians is just 14%, sir. Not average literacy rate, the total literacy rate of Indians was just, okay, the percentage is 14 or 15, second. For men it is 18% and for women it is 7%, sir. Okay, women's literacy rate was 7% and men literacy rate was just 18%, and in average the total literacy rate of India was just 14%. Are you following this? So it means that India was predominantly illiterate, famine ridden, average life expectancy was 32 years. Okay, then along with that, India also became an import dependent economy by the end of the British colonial rule, sir. Then apart from that, what the Britishers did is, throughout their rule, they have actively promoted the policy of divide and rule among Indians. And as part of this divide and rule, they started promoting the differences between the various religious groups of India. And these religious groups of India, the differences that they promoted finally led to the partition of the country into India and Pakistan. Yes or no, sir? So in fact, the British colonial rule in India, it ended with the partition of the country. And the partition of the country is primarily an outcome of the divide and rule policies of the Britishers, and they promoted the differences among Indian citizens on the basis of religion. Yes. Then it did not end there, sir. Their divide and rule policy, they also actively promoted the differences between the numerous language groups in India, sir. Then apart from promoting the differences between the numerous language groups of India, one more thing that they have done is they have promoted the differences between numerous castes of India. Are you following this? Okay, so I'm not saying that these were not present before the British rule in India. They were present before the British rule in India too, but the Britishers converted them into political conflicts. Are you following this? Religious conflicts became political conflicts, then language conflicts became political conflicts, then apart from that they converted the caste conflicts into political conflicts. Yes. Then apart from that, they also actively promoted tribal versus non-tribal conflicts too, sir. Particularly in Northeast India, they promoted the tribal identity, and they in fact alienated the tribal population of Northeast India from the rest of the Indians, and they actively promoted this tribal non-tribal conflict too, sir. This way, the gift of the British rule to India is that they actively promoted the differences among the Indian population, and post-independent Indian government was given the very good opportunity to handle all these differences, sir. Is it a gift of theirs or a curse, sir? It is definitely a curse. Yes or no, sir? Okay, सबका differences इतना promote करके बाद में हमको handle करने को छोड़ के चले गए, sir, वो लोग. Are you following this? And they actively promoted the differences on all these lines, and this is one important colonial legacy is they converted the social differences of India into political conflicts, sir. Are you following this? Okay, this is one important contribution of the British colonial rule is converting the social differences of India into political conflicts. Then apart from this, one more interesting contribution of the British colonial rule is by the end of the British colonial rule. So in fact, at the start of the British colonial rule over India, India was considered to be the sink of gold and silver across the world, sir. It means that the gold and silver of the world, it used to travel all across the globe and finally it used to come and sink in India, sir. India was a sink of gold and silver, and gold and silver in India, it represented the savings of India, sir. Understand this carefully. Gold and silver, they represented the savings of India, but by the end of the British colonial rule, the average saving rate of India is just 2.75% of its GDP, sir. Is it 2.5 or 2.75? Just check it once in handout. I think it is somewhere around 2.5 only. The average savings rate of Indians is just 2.5% of the net GDP of India, sir. 2.75, right? Yes, 2.75 is the gross savings rate of Indians. Okay, in comparison to our GDP, our savings rate was just 2.5%, sir. Yeah, and what does usually savings determine, sir? What does usually savings determine? Investment. Okay, whatever we save, the same money we can reinvest into the economy, sir. And when our savings rate is just 2.5%, can we reinvest this money into the economy, sir? Savings also determines our consumption too. What we can buy and what money we can invest in, it is determined on the basis of our savings alone, sir. And the average savings rate of India at the time of independence is just 2.75%, sir. Today it is around 30%. Are you following this? Today it is around 30%, and at the time of our independence it was just 2.75%. This makes the savings in the banks even less, and whatever money is saved in the bank, that will become investment for the economy, sir. And when the savings rate itself is so low, naturally there is no possibility for private investment to take India forward, sir. Understand this carefully, because savings only get converted into private investment, and the savings rate, when it is so low, naturally it did not lead to any private investment. This forced the Indian government to play an active role in economy, sir. Okay, today many people say that okay, socialism is a choice of Jawaharlal Nehru. But socialism is not a choice of Jawaharlal Nehru, sir. It is in fact something which, it is an option which we had to take because of the condition of Indian economy, sir. There is no choice for us. We could not go to capitalism primarily because our savings rate is just 2.75% of the gross domestic product. 2.75% is saving, and with 2.75% saving, no country can go for private investment led industrialization, sir. We had to opt for socialism only. There is no other choice here. Are you following this? Is it making sense? So this is one more thing. The savings rate was very less. Then apart from the savings rate being less, okay, what other contribution did the British colonial rule make to India, sir? One more important contribution is British colonial rule. It has left numerous unsettled boundaries for India, sir. Okay, so this is also a colonial legacy. They have left behind numerous unsettled boundaries. They did not clearly demarcate the boundaries of India with its neighbors, sir. And this led to numerous problems in post-independent India, sir. In fact, most of the wars we fought, most of the conflicts we have, it is primarily because of the unsettled boundaries which have been left behind by the British colonial rule, sir. Yes or no? The unsettled boundaries are with, one is the China's unsettled boundary itself has led to the Indo-China war. Then with Pakistan, whatever hasty boundaries that they have drawn, they also lead to numerous conflicts. With Bangladesh, similarly, we have conflicts. Nepal today is also talking about colonial boundaries. Are you following this, sir? With every neighboring country of India except for Bhutan, sir. With all other countries, we have boundary disputes primarily because Britishers have left behind numerous unsettled boundaries between different countries under their control, sir. Are you following this? So this is one more important issue, unsettled boundaries. Then apart from unsettled boundaries, what other is the contribution of the British colonial rule, sir? Any other contribution? Negative, I'm talking about. Low education is one, poverty, low life expectancy, low savings rate, economy was completely destroyed, social differences were converted into political conflicts, unsettled boundaries. Okay, these are some of the negative consequences of the British colonial rule. Any other that you can think of? So in fact, the Britishers have introduced the English education system. So should we consider it as positive impact or negative impact, sir? So this is a very highly controversial topic, sir. Okay, primarily because the criticism of the British rule also we are doing in the British language. Yes sir, no? हम लोग तो इंग्लिश में ही बात कर रहे हैं अभी, कि इंग्लिश में ही बोल रहे हैं कि ब्रिटिश ने ये किया वो किया, and the language that we are using is also again the British English only. Is it true or not? So it means that the issue of English language in India, it has two sides to it, sir. Okay, one is definitely there is a element of negative impact of English language education, primarily because Indians are forced to learn and communicate in an alien language. Yes or no, sir? And even today, the social respectability in India is based on your command over English language. है कि नहीं सर? आप ठीक से इंग्लिश बात नहीं किया तो खत्म, क्या आप कितना भी काम का है कि कम्युनिकेशन आपका पूरे तो आपको कोई भाव नहीं देता. Is it true or not, sir? But okay, you are very poor in your skills, but very good in communication. अरे ये तो बहुत सही आदमी है, फिर इसको तो सर पे बिठाना है. So we are determining the social level and the skill level of a person on the basis of his competence of a language which is not Indian language, sir. That is the negative impact. But English language at the same time has given access to Indians to the global market. Without a competency of the English language, India could not have tapped into the global market today. It also gave us access to knowledge in various fields, primarily because today English is the language of the internet. Without a command of the English language, we would not get access to knowledge. It opened up knowledge for us. It opened up global economy for us. So this way, English is a mixed bag, sir. Now, it also integrated the country because even today, official language of India, one of the official languages is English. True or not, sir? Yes. So English is a mixed bag. Let us not put it into the negative impact, sir. Yes. So then, apart from that, any other contribution of the British colonial rule? Negative. Economic destruction, social differences, political conflict, unsettled boundaries, international conflicts. Then apart from that, average life expectancy, economic destruction, all these are the negative impacts of the British colonial rule, sir. Okay, and what I will do is my class usually contains two aspects, sir. One is the discussion, second is reading through the handouts, sir. Okay, so I'll repeat all these points and dictate some additional points when I'm reading through the handouts, sir. Are you following this? So once the British legacy is done, we are going to read through the handouts, sir. Is it clear? So then if some additional point is there, I'll discuss there. So these are the prominent negative consequences of the British colonial rules. Then apart from these prominent negative consequences, okay, one more aspect of the British rule is the British legacy also had a positive impact over India, sir. So what is the positive impact of the British colonial rule? Okay, one is they have developed transportation and communication infrastructure in India. Okay, whatever their intent might be, but they have developed transport and communication infrastructure in India. By the time of the end of the British colonial rule, India had the world's densest railway network, sir. No other country in the world had the railway network equal in extent to that of India, sir. By the end of the British colonial rule, India had nearly 45,000 miles of railway lines. Just check it once in the handout. So these kind of figures, they are a little slippery, sir. I think it is 45,000. 45,000 miles of railway lines were established by the British rule by the time 42,000 miles of railway lines they have established, sir. So by the end of the British colonial rule, and today the total extent of Indian railway lines is just 60,000 kilometers, sir. It means that after post-independent India for 70 years, what we did is we added just 18,000 kilometers of railway line to the Indian railway lines, sir. Are you following this? Okay, so this is one important contribution. And by the end of the British colonial rule, they also laid down nearly 60,000 odd miles of road lines also they have established, sir. Okay, road and railway line, 65,000. What is the road line? 65,000 of road lines. Then 42,000 miles of railway lines they have established in India, sir. So these are the things that they have done. This is definitely a positive contribution. And India also inherited a very well-developed communication system during British rule in terms of telegraph is one. And along with that, post is one more department which was very well-developed during the British colonial rule, sir. Post and telegraph also are British colonial heritage. Then along with that, railways and roadways are also some of the important things that they have done. But these railways and roadways, what they have done is when they developed, they mainly focused on connecting the port towns of India into the interior cities, sir. Okay, so port towns of India to the interior cities, but they did not develop the links between two interior parts of India, sir. Rural and urban nahi. Okay, interior parts of India mein, so let's suppose they prefer always laying a road or railway line from Bhopal to Mumbai, sir, but not from Bhopal to Delhi. Understand this carefully. Are you understanding this? They will prefer laying a road line, okay, let's suppose from a city like, okay, Kolkata. From city like Kolkata, they will connect, okay, the city of, the cities in Bihar, sir. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Okay, so Patna को Kolkata से road line connect करेंगे, railway line भी connect करेंगे, पर they will not develop the connectivity between Patna and Delhi again. Are you understanding this? Primarily because, okay, they always wanted an export-oriented economy in India, sir. Are you following this? Export and import-oriented economy. That is the reason why most of their railway and road lines, they are suitable for export-import economy, but not for an economy which has to develop in a self-sufficient fashion. Are you following this? This is one negative of the British colonial rule is they developed the roads and railway lines for the sake of export and import oriented economy, but not for the sake of an economy which is self-sufficient, sir. Internal connections in India, they were not developed, but external connections with the foreign countries, they are developed very well, sir. Clear? सबको समझ में आ रहा है ना? Okay, मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? So this is very important, sir. One is trade and commerce, sorry, transport and communication infrastructure. Then apart from that, what else is the positive contribution? Administrative system. Okay, in fact, we today follow the British administrative system, sir. Majority of the Indian administrative services, rules of administration. Okay, all of these things, they are laid down during the British colonial rule. Is it true or not, sir? Yes. So, in fact, the exam that you are preparing for today, it is also a colonial heritage. Yes, and by preparing for this examination and clearing, you want to become the new Britishers. Hey, can I, sir? Okay, so that is true. You don't accept also, that is true. You want to become the new Britishers of India in order to do the Raj. Are you following what I'm trying to say? So, in fact, one of the important contributions of the British colonial rule is the administrative system that they have left behind. And this administrative system, okay, it continues even today in India. Even today, the Indian police is governed by the Indian Police Act of 1861. You know about this, sir? Okay, the base rules of Indian civil services, they take from the Imperial Services Act of 1861, sir. You following this? And along with that, even the legal system of India is a colonial heritage. IPC, CRPC. Okay, so most of the criminal procedure codes, civil procedure codes, our jail system. Okay, so all of these things are thoroughly influenced by the Western society, sir. So particularly the British and the Indian administrative and legal system, both of them are a colonial heritage for India, sir. Okay, that is the reason why even today the language of the Indian Supreme Court and Indian judiciary is English, right? You know that, right? So the official language of the Indian courts is English. Okay, primarily because English is a legally advanced language, sir. So that is the reason why they use English language even today in the Indian Supreme Court, sir. Are you following this? So Indian legal and Indian administrative system, both of them are a British colonial heritage, sir. Then apart from that, any other positive impact of the British colonial rule, sir? Okay, so in fact, the British colonial rule, what it did is, they created, okay, a political government in India first, which is called as a state, sir. And they united the different provinces, language groups of India, all of them they integrated under their own colonial control, sir. It means that India is a state first. Then after they established this unified government, the people across different regions of India, they started understanding their common problems. And by understanding their common problems, they united together in order to fight against the British rule. And this is how nationalism came about in India, sir. Is it true or not? So in fact, India is a country which is a state first and nation later, sir. State means first we had a government, sir. Then after that we became a united group of people. ऐसा नहीं कि हम लोग यूनाइटेड थे उसके बाद हमने गवर्नमेंट फॉर्म की, ऐसा नहीं. पहले हमारा एक गवर्नमेंट था, उसके बाद हम लोग समझ लिया कि हम लोगों में बहुत सारा यूनिफाइंग फैक्टर्स है एंड उसको एडवांटेज लेके वी स्टार्टेड ऑर्गेनाइजिंग ए नेशनल मूवमेंट बाय यूनाइटिंग ऑल द पीपल ऑफ इंडिया, सर. वन इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ द ब्रिटिश colonial rule is they established the state first, This led to the creation of Indian nation later, sir. You following this? So that is the reason why India today is called a nation state. आपने सुना है term nation state बोले? Nation means what? Nation is the we feeling that people have, sir. State is the government that the people have. In India, did we have the we feeling first or the government first, sir? Government ही पहले आया था ना? Okay, otherwise Indians are perpetually divided into numerous smaller kingdoms. True or not, sir? So they are the ones who established the government first, and after that this sense of we and one nation, it emerged in India, sir. Yes, sir. See, that is very difficult to say. That is very, very difficult to say. Okay, India might be present, but not okay in the shape and in the image that we have today, sir. It is very difficult to come to a conclusion here. See, primarily because Indian nationalism in essence is anti-colonial nationalism, sir. Okay, without colonialism we will not have its opposing force, that is nationalism. अगर colonialism है तो उसका opposing force nationalism आएगा. अगर colonialism ही नहीं है तो nationalism आने का chances बहुत कम है, sir. Okay, definitely India would not have the political map that it has today. Okay, and the kind of system that we have today of the national integration, it would not have been present without the British colonial rule. That is one thing which I am sure of. But I cannot say, okay, so whether it would have been absolutely impossible to create a nation. I am not sure of that. But definitely British colonial rule helped in the creation of Indian nation, sir. Clear? Then apart from that, any other positive contribution of the British colonial rule, sir? Okay, so in fact, they are the ones who introduced the parliamentary system of democracy into India. Okay, they introduced even the practice of democracy into India, sir. So even before Indian independence, India used to have election system, sir. Democratic elections were conducted in India from the time of 1909. Okay, from 1909 itself, what the Britishers did is gradually they introduced an element of democracy into India, sir. Are you following this? Am I making sense? So gradually they introduced the process of democracy and parliament based system, and this democracy and parliamentary system is also considered to be a positive colonial legacy, sir. So what we have done is after independence, we converted this limited democracy into a universal adult franchise based democracy, sir. See, I'm very concerned about the new batch students. Okay, please stop me and ask if you are not understanding anything. So there is no problem. So, but please be clear about what I'm saying, sir. Okay, one is India is first or democracy and parliamentary system. Both of them, they are in fact British heritage for India, and this British heritage is clearly seen from 1909 when they introduced limited democracy in India, and in 1951 we became a full-fledged democracy by giving voting right to every section of Indian population, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? Yes. So this is one thing that is a positive contribution of the British rule is the parliamentary and democratic system of India. Okay, till recently, even the parliament building that has been built in India was also British colonial legacy. True or not, sir? Even the building was built by the Britishers. Okay, only recently we have changed the premises. Yes. Then apart from this, any other positive contribution of the British colonial rule? Lands, banking system, not essentially, sir, not essentially, because most of the banks were private banks. They were not the British banks. Railways, I already talked about. Transport and communication infrastructure. Industries, no, sir. Okay, no British. Industries means some consumer goods industries they have set up. Okay, so like you might have been knowing about this Lever Brothers, which today is Hindustan Lever. Okay, Leyland is one more, which today became Ashoka Leyland. Yes, so this way some industries that they have set up, but not very, very prominent ones, sir. All right. So any other positive contribution of the British colonial rule? Okay, just now we discussed about the language English. Okay, English language is also a positive contribution. Even though it is a mixed contribution, okay, we can consider it to be okay like a positive contribution for India is the language English that they have left behind in India. Yes. Then apart from that, any other? Okay, so in fact, in the negative consequences, I forgot to talk about one thing, sir. In fact, they created an inferiority psychological complex among Indians, sir. Okay, primarily because they always used to project themselves to be superior to Indians. This led to a inferiority psychological complex among Indians. Even post independence also, this inferiority psychological complex, it haunts Indians, sir. Okay, they have undermined the Indian confidence. Okay, they have projected Indians to be very backward and uncivilized people, sir. So this had a very negative and adverse psychological consequence on the Indian mindset, sir. Are you following this? So in fact, because of this negative and adverse psychological consequence itself, Indians were never vocal about their rights, sir. Are you following this? Even today, Indians are not very vocal about their rights. If someone oppresses, they will in fact accept the oppression also without questioning it. Why this kind of negative psychological mindset for Indians? It is primarily because throughout 200 years of British colonial rule, whenever any resistance is shown to the British rule, immediately it was suppressed with brutal force, sir. And it became a part of Indian culture to accept oppression without questioning it, sir. Are you following this? So this is one negative psychological consequence of the British colonial rule. Then apart from that, one more negative consequence, psychological consequence for Indians is, in fact, I will tell you one interesting story, sir. Okay, so in fact, India was visited somewhere around some 13th century by a foreign traveler called Marco Polo, sir. Okay, Marco Polo, he is a global traveler. Okay, you might have heard about his name, Marco Polo. So he visited India too, sir. Particularly, he came to peninsular India, visited the regions like Kerala, Tamil Nadu. Okay, some sections of Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka he has visited. So, and during his visits of India, he has clearly stated that in India, the color dark is given higher beauty significance than the fair color, sir. It means that in India, the color preference is always dark is considered to be superior to the fairer colors, sir. But 200 years of British colonial rule, and after that, what happened? Reversed this tendency completely. Yes or no? Okay, so today fair is considered as superior. Why? Because fair is associated with the Britishers, sir. Are you following this? So, and this led to a multi-billion-dollar fairness cream industry in India. Yes or no, sir? Okay, so because of continuous criticism against this term fairness, now what happened? They changed the name from Fair and Lovely to Glow and Lovely. Okay, but again it means fairness only. Are you following this, sir? So this way, the preference of color also, it got completely altered because of the British colonial rule, sir. Are you understanding this? Okay, so there is clear-cut historical evidence also for this. I am not just basing it on myth. Marco Polo, in his account, he has clearly stated about this, sir. Following this? So this is the nature of the British colonial rule, sir. So let's have a look at the handout for this section. Then after that, we will move to the contribution of Indian national movement to Indian history. So just have a look at this section. So you have to open your mobile phones. If you have a printout, it would have been easier for you, okay, to write the additional points then and there itself. That is the reason why I ask you to take a printout of this section, sir. Yes. So, in fact, the British colonial rule is known as the period of development of underdevelopment. Okay, what is being developed? Underdevelopment is being developed, sir. So, it is period of development of underdevelopment. 200 years of British rule. Before British rule, 1/3 of global manufacturing and 2/3 of global trade used to pass through India. Are you understanding this, sir? Okay, but the Britishers, what they have done is they have integrated the Indian economy internally and subordinated the Indian economy in the international markets. Clear? Yes. So then after that, absence of savings, the average savings rate of Indians was just 2.75% of the gross national product. Okay, so there was no possibility of private sector based economic development. So naturally the government had to play an important role in the economy. Are you understanding this, sir? Yes. So then after that, underdeveloped agriculture, okay, technological backwardness was present. Okay, and the British rule is known for commercialization of agriculture, sir. But this commercialization occurred without modernization. There was no modernization, only commercialization of agriculture has happened. So even at the end of the British rule, okay, there were not, okay, so Indians were still using or cultivating with the help of wooden plows, sir. There is no mechanization of agriculture, and the Britishers also did not establish, they established only one agricultural university, sir, in India. There was no technological progress in any respect in agriculture, sir. Indian agriculture, it was commercialized, but it was not modernized by the end of the British colonial rule, sir. Then along with that, one more British legacy is the Britishers have created a very distorted land ownership structure in India. Know about this distorted land ownership structure? Yes. Nearly 70% of the agricultural land in India, it was owned by the people who are not involved in agriculture, sir. Are you following this? It means that 70% of the agricultural land in India is owned by the non-agricultural classes. And who are these non-agricultural classes, sir? Jamindar is the best example for this. He was not involved in agriculture, but he is the owner of agricultural land. So in fact, 70% of the all cultivable land in India, it is under the control of non-agricultural classes by the end of the British colonial rule, sir. And this led to numerous problems in post-independent India. And one such problem, okay, so which is a British heritage, is Naxalism. Because what did the Naxals try to do? Primarily, they tried to redistribute the land among the people, right? That is their main aim. Yes or no? Yes. So this is one more thing, sir. Underdeveloped agriculture, distorted agricultural structure. 70% of land is held by non-agrarian classes in India, sir, by the end of the British colonial rule. Then underdeveloped industry. Okay, industry was confined just to consumer good industries, and there was a regional concentration of industries. Only a few centers in India had industries of their own. One is Mumbai, and the second one is Kolkata. Is it true or not, sir? Okay, so by the end of the British colonial rule, only Bombay and Kolkata or Calcutta are the two centers of industries, sir. Apart from that, okay, in Kanpur there were some leather industries, and Ahmedabad was also an industrial city, sir. Apart from this, rest of India did not have any industries of their own. That is the reason why in post-independent India, Indian government tried to develop the industries in underdeveloped areas. They provided incentives to private sector in order to set up the factories in backward areas. Indian government also set up numerous factories in the backward regions of India. True or not, sir? So can you name any examples of the factories which have been set up in backward regions in post-independent India? Okay, you might be knowing about Bhilai, Bokaro, Jamshedpur, not Jamshedpur, which one? Rourkela. So all of these are the backward regions of India. Yes. So British colonial rule may definitely there was underdeveloped industry. It was confined to consumer goods and there was regional concentration. And the population rural urban ratio is 82.3% of the Indian population was rural, sir. Is it clear? So you see this. Then apart from this, the next one is, so they developed this transport and communication network, 65,000 miles of roadways and 42,000 miles of railways. But these are distorted and are meant for an export oriented economy, sir. Clear? Then life expectancy was just 32 years, primarily because of high infant mortality rate and maternal mortality rate. Epidemics were a common phenomena. Underdeveloped healthcare and famines was a very common phenomena during British colonial rule, sir. Clear? Then after this, only 25% of males and 7.9% of the females were literate by 1951, sir. So in total, the average is somewhere around some 16% of the population was illiterate, sir. Clear? So only 16% of the population was illiterate, of which 25% were male and 8% were female, sir. Clear? Then after this, divide and rule. So that led to communalism. Yes. So there you write one statement. The Britishers converted. So if you have the handout, you could have written there itself. Please take the printout. It is essential. It will be useful for you. Okay. So write down. The Britishers converted the social differences of India, into political conflicts. Britishers converted the social differences of India into political conflicts to promote their rule. But these conflicts created numerous challenges to post-independent Indian government. Numerous challenges to post-independent Indian government. Is it clear, sir? Did you understand this statement clearly? Yes, sir. Okay, so then after this, tribals were isolated, and this led to the challenges of integration, particularly in Northeast India. Tribal integration became a major challenge, and even today we are facing the same problems, right? Okay, most of the secessionist movements in Northeast India are primarily a colonial heritage, sir, because they did not permit the Indian population to enter into the tribal areas of Northeast India, sir. Are you following this? Okay, when they did not permit Indians to enter into these regions, what happened is they developed a subculture of their own. And once India became independent, these people, they are not able to adjust themselves into the Indian society. And this leads to the problem of secessionism. Okay, particularly Nagas are there. Okay, then Manipur, we are seeing the conflicts today. Yes or no, sir? Okay, so in fact, the role of the Christian missionaries in Northeast is something which is leading to conflict today. Is it true or not, sir? Yes. So this way, Northeast India is one problem. Then they also created the problems of princely states, sir. Okay, so please understand this. When India became independent, nearly 40% of Indian geographical area, it was under the control of the rulers of the princely states, sir. And 23% of Indian population, they were present under the control of the princely states, sir. Are you understanding what the princely states are, right? Okay, you might be knowing that Hyderabad was a princely state during British colonial rule. Jammu and Kashmir was a princely state. Yes. So these are the regions which are indirectly governed by the Britishers. Not directly. Indirectly governed by the Britishers, and 40% of the geographical territory of India, 23% of its population was under the control of nearly 565 princely states. And while leaving, the Britishers, what they have done is, in India Independence Act of 1947, which made India independent, they provided the option for the princely states to remain independent too, sir. Understand this carefully. They said that by 15th August of 1947, paramountcy over the princely states. Paramountcy means the ultimate authority over the princely states. For the British, it is going to lapse. But there is no need for the princely states to transfer this paramountcy either to India or to Pakistan, sir. It means that they had been given the option of remaining independent. And if 40% of today's India, if it remained independent from the Indian Union, okay, would India as a state would it have survived, sir? Would it have survived? India as a country, would it have survived when 40% of its territory, that too not at one place, sir? This 40% of the territory is divided all across the country, ranging from Jammu and Kashmir in the north to, okay, the Cochin coastline, okay, so, or the Konkan coastline, not Konkan, the Malabar coastline in Kerala. There were some princely states which were bigger than many European countries, sir. Okay, particularly Hyderabad was bigger than Spain, almost equivalent to the size of Spain. Then along with that, okay, Jammu and Kashmir was also a huge state, very big state, sir. And some of these princely states, they were so small that one princely state, it had contained a total population of 14, which included the king and his ministers, sir. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? तो इतना बड़ा princely state था कि कुछ princely states यूरोपियन कंट्रीज से भी बड़ा था. लेकिन at the same time there are some princely states which had a total population of 14, which included the king and his minister. And ऐसा princely state 14 लोगों का princely state को independence देना, will it be good, sir? But the Britishers said that our paramountcy is lapsing. Okay, do whatever you want to do. This creates a huge problem for Indian integration. Okay, in fact, okay, even though the Britishers have created a huge problem for India, one Britisher, that is Lord Mountbatten, along with Patel and VP Menon, these are the three people who integrated all these princely states into the Indian Union, sir. This is a very interesting story of Indian history, so we will discuss about that too. Is it clear? Yes. Then apart from this, one more important thing is the Britishers' colonial legacy is partition of the country. Yes. Then along with that, please write it down. It's not given there. Unsettled boundaries. Unsettled boundaries led to numerous political conflicts. Unsettled boundaries led to numerous political conflicts in post-independent India. In post-independent India. In post-independent India. Then along with that, you write the British rule had an adverse psychological impact on Indians. The British rule had an adverse psychological impact on Indians. And it promoted a culture of submission to oppression. Promoted a culture of submission to oppression. Submission to oppression. Submission to oppression, full stop. Despite of a democratic polity, and a rights-based society, India is still suffering from the colonial hangover. India is still suffering from the colonial hangover. Okay, colonial hangover. So this is a term which has been used by UPSC itself in order to ask a essay. So Indians are still suffering from colonial hangover. So it means that the colonial rule has ended, party has ended, okay, but the hangover is still, okay, so hurting the heads of Indians. Okay, one method of hurting is, okay, this is a blind submission to authority, sir. Indians are not vocal enough for a democratic and rights-based polity like India, sir. Are you following this? Our constitution is far advanced than our society. को समझ में आ रहा है? Okay, constitution, okay, वो तो बहुत आगे चला गया, लेकिन सोसाइटी को पीछे छोड़ के चला गया. साथ लेना था, साथ लेके जाना था, लेकिन it did not take us along, sir. Constitution is very advanced. It provides us a lot many rights and privileges. But are we exercising all these rights and privileges in the right spirit, sir? Exercise कर रहा है कि नहीं? Partly yes, partly no. Are you getting this? So this is one thing. Then you can write one more statement. It also, British rule has deeply imprinted in Indian minds. British rule had deeply imprinted in Indian minds. An idea of fair is superior. Fair, F-A-I-R, fair is superior. Okay, so this is one statement that you can write, sir. So this is the idea that the Britishers, or the negative impact of the British colonial rule is this. Is it all right? Yes. So these are the negative consequences, sir. Now, if you look at the positive consequences of the British colonial rule, what are the positive consequences? Okay, united India. India is a state first and nation later. Yes, it's stated there clearly. Then Britishers created the middle classes in India. Yes, this is very true. Okay, middle classes means the educated sections of Indian society. Okay, middle class means the educated sections of the Indian society were created by the British colonial rule. Then apart from that, one more important contribution of the Britishers is they introduced the system of rule of law into India. Rule of law means what? Everyone is equal in the eyes of law. Yes. So, and it is the Britishers, particularly Lord Cornwallis, who introduced the system of rule of law into India, sir. Before this, in India, there was no concept of rule of law. In fact, the punishments to a person are determined on the basis of his caste, sir. If an upper caste person commits a crime, his punishment is usually very lenient. And the same crime is committed by a lower caste person, the punishment is excessive. But in India, okay, the Britishers introduced the concept of rule of law, sir. Do you understand this? It means that everyone is equal in the eyes of law is one idea that the Britishers have introduced into India. And one more positive contribution is the bureaucratic structure. Yes. So then apart from that, okay, so the Britishers in fact promoted this democratic tradition in India, primarily because during their rule also, they were not completely authoritarian, sir. They were governing in terms of semi-authoritarian rule. Semi-authoritarian rule means what? They were governing. But at the same time, there were some Indians elected and who are functioning in the government. समझ में आ रहा है नहीं कि आपको? Semi-authoritarian means what? It is not absolutely authoritarian. All powers are not with the Britishers. they also used to give some powers to the elected Indian representatives. Okay, but these elected Indian representatives, they are elected on the basis of limited franchise. Limited franchise means the voting rights are given to just some sections of the population, sir. But India, what it did is, after becoming independent, it converted into a full-fledged universal adult franchise-based democracy. Yes. So you write 1 point in positive outcome. There you just write positive outcomes. उसमें एक additional point लिख लीजिए. English language. English language. English language. English language. Provided India access to the global economy, and the knowledge and the global economy and the scientific knowledge unit. Okay, and the scientific knowledge unit. Okay, so these are the important things about the positive outcomes of the British rule, sir. So now, will you be able to write a good enough answer on the basis of the British colonial legacy, sir? Yes. Okay, some positives, some negatives. Okay, but mostly negatives. Only a few positives we should emphasize, sir. Is it clear? Okay, so this is a very, very important question, sir. I already told you that it has been asked as an essay. Essay for nearly 1000 words, you have to write the essay, sir. I think based on our discussion, at least some 50 to 60% of the essay will be able to write, sir. Is it clear? Very, very good points we can write here. Is it clear? Now, after this, the next one is, okay, so in this course, what I did is, I have integrated a lot many cartoons for this course, sir. Primarily because sometimes cartoons can communicate better than words, sir. Yes or no? Okay, so and post-independent India, newspapers were too many. So because of which reason, a lot many cartoons were drawn on Indian national leaders, sir. And the conditions of India. So and this is one cartoon, okay, which shows the condition of India when the Britishers were leaving out, sir. Just see this cartoon. Okay, what does it show? Okay, free India from British tyranny. Okay, so but what is the condition of India here? What can you see? Huh? Are you able to see it or not? Should I enlarge? Yes. So I'll do what? So what does it show? What is the India that the Britishers are leaving behind, sir? What does the vulture signify? Huh? Famine. Okay, death and famine are usually signified by the vulture, sir. And vultures are feeding on the dead people. Yes. So then after that, can you see what is happening here in the background? Okay, murder and rape, killings are happening. So particularly these are associated with the partition related violence in India. Yes. Then along with that, some smoke is also being shown, which shows that India is burning because of the communal violence. You following this, sir? And at the same time, despite of these kind of situation, okay, where the houses are being burned, people are being killed, famines were occurring, at the center, Gandhi along with some Indians, they are demanding for freeing India. India is for Indians. But what is the India that is being left behind by the Britishers, sir? India which is ridden by famines, poverty, okay, communal violence. So this is the India situation when the Britishers finally quit India, sir. Okay, these people are also being shocked. Okay, what India we are asking independence for? वो लोग भी देख रहे, देखो. They were also shocked. You following this, sir? Okay, so this is the condition of the Indian society when, okay, we became independent. It was afflicted by poverty, violence, okay, famines, okay, and in fact, achieving independence to a country like India, it is in fact taking upon a great challenge to reform the kind of situation which we were present in, sir. You following this? Okay, so that is one issue that we need to remember. Then after this, the next topic that we need to discuss is what is the legacy of Indian national movement to India, sir. Is it clear? So is British colonial legacy is a clear, sir, topic? Yes. So I have provided a lot many statistics also about 1947 India. which are very useful for you in writing answers, sir. Okay, because in order to appreciate where we have come from, where we have started, it will in fact show the success of Indian experiment, sir. है कि नहीं? Okay, अभी तब 32 years life expectancy से हम लोग अभी 70 तक आए, sir. We almost doubled the life expectancy after the end of the British rule. So this is in fact a great contribution of post-independent India. So we were completely able to free ourselves from famines. That is one more great achievement of India. From a country which became an import-dependent country, today our manufacturing sector is doing very well. Service sector is doing very well. Yes, the urban population ratio is also continuously increasing from 16% to today we are reaching somewhere around some 35-40%. Yes, so then apart from that, savings rate पे 2.75% से हम लोग 30% पे आ गए अभी. So in fact, in order to measure Indian progress and appreciate our success, what we should do is we should compare India of today with the India of 1947, sir. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? Yes, ठीक है. Is it fine or not, sir? Yes. Okay. So yes. Some question? No, right? Okay. So now the next topic that we need to discuss is what is the legacy of Indian national movement to post-independent India, sir. Okay, this is an even more important question, sir. Indian national movement का क्या contribution था post-independent India के लिए? So let's try to understand this. Okay, so can you guess any contributions of the Indian national movement to post-independent India, sir? क्या contribute किया था Indian national movement में? Okay, first and foremost, it gave a vision for India on, definitely, is it true or not, sir? Okay, in fact, it gave a vision for India, sir, because the aim of Indian national movement is, there are two aims to Indian national movement. Listen to this very carefully. One aim of the Indian national movement is independence. Okay, independence means we have to be free from the British colonial rule is one aim of Indian national movement. And the second aim of Indian national movement is the aim of freedom to its people, sir. These are two different things. We need to understand them carefully. Indian national movement, it had two aims. One is the aim of independence from the British colonial rule, and the second one is the aim of freedom for Indians. Are you following this? And here, freedom, it means different things for different peoples of the society, sir. Are you following this? Okay, freedom is a different thing for different sections of the society. See, let's suppose if you take an educated middle class member, sir, an educated middle class member, for him, what would be freedom for him, sir? What is freedom for him? Educated middle class member को freedom बोले तो क्या मिलना चाहिए उसको? हाँ? Job, yes. So it means that, so he should be recognized for his merit is one thing that he wants, sir. Yes or no? So it means that he wants a system where jobs are allocated to people on the basis of their merit. True or not, sir? For an educated middle class member, the most important freedom is equality of opportunity. Without having any question on his background. Okay, if a person is recognized for his merit and if he is given a job, that is freedom for him, sir. Then what is freedom for a farmer, sir? Farmer के लिए freedom क्या होता है? Good price for his produce. Control over the land that he is cultivating is also freedom for him. Okay, मैं land cultivate करता हूं लेकिन इस land का ownership किसी जमींदार के पास है, वो freedom है क्या मुझे? That is unfreedom for me. That is slavery for me. For me, freedom means what? For a farmer, the freedom is ownership over land and good price for his produce is freedom for himself. Understand this carefully. Then, okay, let's suppose, take the case of a person who belong to a tribal section of the society. What would be freedom for a tribe, sir? So that he will first fight against discrimination. Then along with that, he will also demand access to the forest resources. फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्सेज का एक्सेस मुझे मिल गया तो वो फ्रीडम है मेरे लिए, क्योंकि ब्रिटिश कॉलोनियल रूल व्हाट इट डिड नॉट गिव एक्सेस टू द फॉरेस्ट राइट्स फॉर द इंडियन ट्राइबल्स, एंड फ्रीडम फॉर ए ट्राइबल पर्सन इज एक्सेस टू द फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्सेज ऑफ इंडिया इज फ्रीडम फॉर हिम. आर यू फॉलोइंग दिस, सर? देन व्हाट वुड बी फ्रीडम फॉर, okay, so this section of Indian society, so let's take the case of the lower caste of Indian society. What would be freedom for a person who is a Dalit, sir? Non-discrimination is a freedom for him. if there is no discrimination in society, if there is free access for a lower caste person to the temples, to the public wells, that would be freedom for him. Is it true or not, sir? Then what would be freedom for, okay, so women के लिए freedom क्या होता है? Huh? Not just equal representation. Okay, so in fact, for women, real freedom is freedom from patriarchy. Patriarchy is a social system where men get the domination over women. Freedom from patriarchy is the real freedom for women. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? What would be freedom for a person, okay, who is hungry, sir? Food, access to food is freedom for him. Are you following what I'm trying to say? For a hungry person, if you go and say, India has become independent, we have given a beautiful constitution for you. इसमें आपको फंडामेंटल राइट मिल रहा है, फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन भी आपको है, आप यूज कर लीजिए इसको। बोल के आप ये हंग्री पर्सन को जाके बोला तो वो क्या बोलेगा? आपको फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन यूज करके गाली देगा। अरे मुझे तो भूख लग रहा है, आप लोग आके मुझे फ्रीडम फंडामेंटल राइट पढ़ा रहे हैं यहाँ पे, तो पहले मुझे खाना दे दो। ओके, सो अदरवाइज आई विल यूज माय फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन अगेंस्ट यू। ओके, सो दिस इज द रियल फ्रीडम फॉर ए हंग्री पर्सन इज फूड, सर। And in fact, the Indian national movement, understand this very carefully, sir. So it has two agendas to it. One agenda of the Indian national movement is its independence. Independence means liberation from the British rule. And the second agenda is freedom for the Indian people, sir. Are you following this? And both these agendas are mixed together in Indian national movement, sir. And when the tribals participated in the Indian national movement, their aim was not just the end of the British rule, they were also fighting for their freedom. When a farmer is fighting in the Indian national movement, he is not just fighting against the British rule, he is also fighting for the control over his own land. Are you following this? When women were fighting in the Indian national movement, they were not only fighting against the British rule, they are also parallelly fighting against patriarchy, sir. When a lower caste person is fighting against the British rule, he is not only fighting against the British rule, he is also fighting against the caste system. This way, every section of Indian society which participated in the national movement, it had its own meaning of freedom, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूं? It has its own meaning of freedom, and Indian independence, in fact, it also became, or Indian independence led to what? Okay, so people expecting this freedom for themselves, sir. And this freedom is nothing but this is the vision which has been given by the Indian national movement to post-independent India. In 1947, we achieved independence, but the work of freedom is a continuous work which is continuing even today, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? इंडिपेंडेंस हमको मिल गया, ब्रिटिश रूल एंड हो गया, लेकिन were we able to achieve this freedom immediately, sir? The work of freedom is a continuous work. It is not going to end, sir. Are you following this? Okay, it is not going to end, and this work is continuing even today. And this work of freedom is the vision which has been given by the Indian national movement to post-independent India, sir. And this vision of the Indian national movement, so which is the aim of freedom to people, it is in fact formulated as part of the Indian constitution, sir. Okay, so that is the reason why Indian constitution is not just a political document, sir. बाकी countries का constitution आप देख लीजिए, so उसमें political structure, how the government should be formed, only those basic rules will be present. But Indian constitution, apart from being a political document, it is a socio-economic document because it aims to achieve this freedom for people, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूं? Okay, so it aims to, the Indian constitution is a visionary document which wants the Indian people to achieve freedom, and this vision of achieving the freedom to people, it is given by the Indian national movement to the Indian constitution, sir. Okay, otherwise why is there a need for directive principles of state policy? Why is there a need for abolition of untouchability as a fundamental right? आपको समझ में आ रहा है सर मैं क्या बोल रहा हूं? Yes, so directive principles of state policy, the fundamental rights, the promise of the Indian preamble, all of them are the vision of freedom which has been projected by the Indian national movement, and this became part of our constitution, sir. This is one important lasting contribution of Indian national movement is this. That is the vision of freedom which became translated into our constitutional promise. Is it clear, sir? Okay, but the problem is in post-independent India, the constitutional promise, is it fulfilled, sir? Not yet. All these freedoms, they did not translate into the social reality of India. It is a work in progress. है कि नहीं, sir? It is a work in progress. Okay, primarily because Indian constitution, okay, it starts and ends in Delhi, sir. Okay, उसके बाहर आने में थोड़ा मुश्किल है क्योंकि उसके बगल में उत्तर प्रदेश है, sir. Okay, and in Uttar Pradesh there is no constitution. Okay, I'm just telling the reality, sir. Okay, because the society is not, okay, respecting these constitutional principles. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? Yes. So this way, the thing is, this vision of freedom is one important positive contribution of the Indian national movement, sir. Then उसके साथ साथ में और क्या है, sir? What is the other contribution of the Indian national movement? Yes. See, one is the second important contribution of Indian national movement is the idea of secularism. Despite of, okay, partition of the country, we have to remember one important statistic here, sir. See, even with the creation of Pakistan, what happened is 70 million Muslims became part of Pakistan, sir. But 60 million more Muslims were left behind in India. If partition is done on the lines of religion, is it a good partition, sir? 70 million, okay, Pakistan में शामिल थे, लेकिन 60 million Muslims were present in India. Are you following this, sir? Pakistan can claim itself to be a land for the Muslims, but can India claim itself to be a land of Hindus, sir? Huh? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So it means that despite of partition, what happened is in post-independent India, where partition led to only 70 million, okay, minorities becoming part of a separate country, whereas 60 million, almost an equivalent number, were left behind in India. So naturally, the Indian national movement's ideal of secularism is very essential in order to protect these minorities in the country. If just like Pakistan declaring itself to be a land of Muslims, if India declares itself to be a land of Hindus, okay, so then will it lead to any fairness for the minorities, sir? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So in fact, the Indian national movement's one more important legacy is Indian national movement in its essence is secular. So because of this factor only, nearly 60 million Muslims who were present in post-partition India, they also got equal respect, okay, equal rights, and the society, in fact, the polity, it did not discriminate against the minorities, sir. Understanding this? This is one more important contribution, sir. Then apart from that, any other contribution of Indian national movement, sir? Think, you will be able to tell. Yes. See, in fact, in Indian national movement itself, we had the ideal of Swarajya and Swadeshi. Okay, Swadeshi movement is a movement in India. So in fact, one important aim of the Indian national movement is self-sufficiency of the Indian economy, sir. So because that was the aim of India from the 1905 itself, because we started the Swadeshi movement in 1905. Swadeshi is one important economic contribution of the Indian national movement is Swadeshi, sir. We wanted to produce, okay, what we can consume ourselves. So that is the ideal of Swadeshi, and this is one important contribution which in fact shaped the economic policies of post-independent India. Yes. Then along with that, in Indian national movement, Gandhiji always emphasized on handicraft and handmade goods, right? You know about this? Okay, Gandhi was a kind of person who was against industrialization, sir. Not Khadi and village-based industries. KVIC, you know? Khadi and village-based industries Corporation of India, KVIC. So in fact, Gandhi always emphasized on the handmade and handicraft goods, sir. And this emphasis of Gandhi in post-independent India, okay, so did Indian government uphold this, sir? Did we only depend on handmade goods? Did we not go for heavy industrialization? We went for heavy industrialization. Yes or no, sir? So what Indian government used to do is, okay, Indian government always did many things, okay, un-Gandhian, which by placing the image of Gandhi at the forefront, sir. Understand this carefully. This is important. So in fact, there was a preference for handicraft and handmade goods. But handicraft and handmade goods, they used to get a budget allocation of 50 crores, sir. Whereas 5,000 crores is allocated for heavy industrialization in India. Gandhi had the aim of handmade and handicraft goods. But at the same time, Nehru always believed in, okay, heavy industrialization of the country, sir. So it means that, okay, by giving a notional respect to Gandhiji, the real essence of the Indian economy is heavy industrialization. आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं? Yes or no, sir? So Nehru always used to have an image of Gandhiji on his table, sir. By daily looking at him, he used to do all the things which Gandhi did not tell him to do. Are you understanding this? So this way, the Indian economy, it took an un-Gandhian turn, sir. But at the same time, we did not completely neglect the handicraft and handmade good industries, sir. Even today, we emphasize a lot on khadi and village industries. Yes, okay, we have a notion that this should be promoted. But at the same time, we wear all machine-made textiles only. Is it true or not, sir? Okay, so will we wear khadi, handmade goods? How many people will wear, sir? Almost, okay, micro minority in India only wear handmade textiles, sir. Whereas, politician only. Okay, that too in order to hide, okay, the real things that they are doing, they will wear, okay, khadi, okay, and project themselves to be very, okay, nice and good people, but leave it behind. But this is one more important contribution of the Indian national movement is the emphasis on Swadeshi, which led to an emphasis on handmade industries, but at the same time, we also promoted heavy industries of India, sir. Clear? Then apart from this, any other contribution of the Indian national movement, sir? Role of state in economy. Yes, role of state in economy means one more prominent contribution of the Indian national movement is the ideology of socialism, sir. Indian national movement in its essence was a socialist movement, sir. Okay, in its essence was a socialist movement. So because of this socialist tinge of the Indian national movement itself, in post-independent India, the Indian government, it wanted to establish a socialist pattern of society in India, sir. The socialist pattern of society is a society where most of the basic and heavy goods industries are owned by the government, sir. Are you following this? So, and in fact, this tilt towards socialism is very clearly visible in pre-independent India only from the time of the Karachi session of Indian National Congress, sir. So, what this Karachi session is and other things I will discuss later in modern India for you. For the students who have attended my modern India classes, you might be knowing about this Karachi session of 1931. याद है कि नहीं आप लोगों को? So this Karachi session is the one which in fact made India into a socialist country, sir. So it in fact gave economic rights for people along with fundamental rights, sir. This converted India into a socialist country. Then along with the Karachi session of Indian National Congress, we also established a planning commission even before Indian independence. And in the establishment of the first planning commission in India or the planning committee in India, the most important role is played by one is Jawaharlal Nehru and the second one is Subhash Chandra Bose. So 1939 Tripuri session में ही they established a separate planning commission for India. तो planning commission का भी पहले ही हुआ था, socialism का भी पहले ही हुआ था, कराची सेशन में तो economic rights भी promise किया. So this is what we have done in post independent India. समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं आप लोगों को? Yes, self sufficiency एक था और एक one more important issue is the issue of planning commission and the economic rights for people which led to this socialism as an ideology. Yes. Any other contribution of Indian national movement, sir? Good. Very good. So India, in fact, Indian national movement, it strongly supported social reforms. The origin of Indian national movement is in the social reforms of India. Yes. Pele, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, all these people, they are the earliest social reformers of India. Then along with being the earliest social reformers, Raja Ram Mohan Roy is considered to be the first Indian nationalist, sir. He is considered to be the first Indian nationalist because he also started parallelly criticizing the British rule, sir. And Gandhi also strongly supported the social reforms of India. So in fact, the Indian national movement, it had a strong social reform character of its own, and this became very evident in post-independent India, sir. Because Indian government was always at the forefront of bringing about social reforms in India. And one method to bring about social reform is, just now we discussed about this Hindu Code Bill. So that is the reason why immediately after independence we passed laws in order to change the civil code of Hindus. That is social reform. Because earlier in the Hindu civil code there is no permission for intercaste marriage. Are you understanding this? There was no permission for, in fact, there was permission for polygamy, sir. There was no permission for widow remarriage. And in the Indian law book, marriage is considered to be a divine sacrament, sir. And once a marriage is conducted, there is no possibility for dissolution of marriage in India. Marriage ho gaye to janam janam saat janam is the only outcome. Okay, there is no possibility to break marriage, sir. Okay, but divorce as a civil right was introduced in India post independence. Yes, marriage was converted from a sacrament into a contract, sir. Okay, primarily because what is worse than a divorce is a bad marriage is worse than a divorce. They understood this. So that is the reason why Indian national movement's legacy of social reform, it is continued in post-independent India, sir. Even today, Indian government is taking up numerous steps in order to suppress the social evils of Indian society. Okay, triple talaq is one. So the code bill that we talked about for Hindus, we are moving ahead for the sake of uniform civil code today. Are you understanding this? Okay, about this topic I'll discuss later whether it is good or bad, how it is being projected and stuff. We'll talk later. But I think you have got a clear idea on the social reform nature of Indian government, and this is also a contribution of the Indian national movement, sir. Uske saath mein, very good. You are generating very good points, sir. What else is the contribution of Indian national movement? Didn't the Indian national movement give the leadership for the post-independent India, sir? Is it true or not? Okay, all the leaders of post-independent India, or immediately for first 30 years, India was under the control of the leaders who played an important role in the Indian national movement. Yes? Yes or no, sir? Till the time of Jayaprakash Narayana and his fight against emergency, all prominent politicians in India, they were in fact derived from the Indian national movement, sir. Ranging from the communists to the right-wing Hindu nationalists. All of them were derived from the Indian national movement. And this leadership of the post-independent India by the people who fought for the Indian national movement, this in fact gave a continuity for the Indian national movement, and it also gave a lot of stability for India as a country. Hai ki nahi, sir? So 14 years of the governance of Jawaharlal Nehru, it provided a sense of unity for the country, sir. It was a very critical time in Indian history. Okay, many countries became independent along with India, but many of them, they got further subdivided. They got, or their constitutions were overthrown. Their leaders became dictators. But in Indian case, the Indian national movement's leadership, it was very clear on what it wants to do with India, sir. It wanted to make India as a united country. It wanted to uphold the Indian constitution. So that is the reason why, even though there is a good chance for Jawaharlal Nehru to become a dictator, but he did not. He remained a democrat. The constitution was always upheld in India, except for a brief period of emergency. Okay, that is a different case. Okay, but most of the times the constitution is upheld. समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं आप लोगों को? So it means that one important contribution is the leadership, and this provided stability and continuity for India, sir. Yes.
Champion of
Dictatorship. Yes.
Hari became the prime minister at the time. And he wanted India to be ruled as
dictatorship at least for a brief period of 1 or 2 decades. Yes. Okay, but that is a maybe of history, sir. We don't know. We don't know. Okay, whether if he had won, that would have been a different story altogether. But majority of the Indian national leaders, they were believers in the principles of democracy, except for a few like Subhash Chandra Bose, sir. Okay, that too Subhash Chandra Bose, okay, this fascination with the dictatorship is also not thoroughgoing, sir.
how disciplinary the Hitler has
But is discipline good or freedom good, sir? Which is a preferred value? Freedom is better than discipline, sir. Because in the name of disciplines, most of the times, okay, most of the dictators of the world, they have in fact destroyed their own countries in the name of discipline. Okay, the same Hitler that you are quoting about, he always preferred discipline to freedom, sir. And what did he do in Nazi Germany? We know. Mussolini, similar case. In Pakistan also, multiple number of dictatorship also did the same thing. Myanmar, same thing, discipline versus freedom. Any other country. So in fact, India is a country which is an exception in the post-Second World War world, sir. Because the average life expectancy of the constitutions which were created post-Second World War is just 20 years, sir. But the Indian constitution, it has outlived, sir, this. बाकी देशों में जो भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आया था 20 साल भी नहीं रुका, बट हमारा तो 75 years ऑलमोस्ट, वी हैव टचिंग 75 years for our constitution. Are you following this, sir? So this is one important success of India. And when India was created, multiple number of Western scholars, they anticipated that India is going to self-destruct itself in 20 years. They said it openly. With the kind of diversity that India has, with the kind of conflicts that India has, with the levels of illiteracy that India has, India is not going to survive as a nation for 20 years. And when Jawaharlal Nehru extended universal adult franchise, when the Indian constitution extended universal adult franchise to the Indian masses, in Western media it became a mockery. How can the illiterate Indians vote? Then what Indian government did is it introduced the system of symbols for voting, sir, because Indians cannot read. Political party symbols पहले यही पे आया था. Are you following what I'm trying to say? So this way we were able to somehow survive, sir. This democratic experiment, we are able to survive. Most other countries, they cannot claim the same thing, sir. Take the case of Southeast Asia. Don't go any further. In Southeast Asia, every country had a dictatorship, sir. Pakistan, Bangladesh, okay, Myanmar, Thailand, okay, then after that you go to Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, even today it is almost a dictatorship. Okay, then along with that you go to Vietnam, okay, Laos, Cambodia. Every country in Southeast Asia, it became a dictatorship in its history, except for India, sir. Isn't it a brilliant contribution of the Indian national movement, sir? Primarily because the Indian national movement, it imprinted in Indian minds the idea of democracy, sir. Are you following this? Okay, so बाकी countries में भी British might say that democracy and parliamentary system is a gift of the Britishers to India, but they have given the same gift to many African countries. But what happened to the gift there? Gift was returned back to the British. Return gift दिया था उन लोगों को, हमको चाहिए नहीं. लेकिन हमने क्या किया? Okay, see, the gift also should be, the people have the capability to utilize the gift, sir. Yes or no? Most of the Southeast Asian countries are also ruled by the Britishers only. डेमोक्रेसी वहां पे सर्वाइव नहीं होता, इंडिया में हुआ था, और ब्रिटिश क्लेम करने लगे कि हमने ही आप लोगों को डेमोक्रेसी दिया. आपने तो बहुत लोगों को दिया, उन लोगों का क्या? Are you following this? This is one unique thing about India is India's constitution is more long lasting. India's democracy is more long lasting, and India is an exception in third world, sir. Third world means the countries which became newly independent. Out of all the third world countries, India is always exceptional. We are not like others. Okay, so we have a third world economy and society with a polity of the first world, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? Okay, so this is one very important thing about India, the leadership continuity, okay, and the survival of the Indian constitution, Indian democratic experiment. So all of these things are the important contributions of the Indian national movement. Then apart from this, any other contribution of Indian national movement, sir? Secularism, socialism, okay, we talked about the economic system of India, we talked about leadership, we talked about constitution. Then which one? Non-violence is one more important contribution of the Indian national movement. So in fact, during the Indian national movement, numerous different shades of opinion, okay, were part of the Indian national movement. We had Subhash Chandra Bose, who preferred a dictatorship, as you have told, and Nehru, who preferred a democracy, okay, Gandhi, who preferred a panchayat based system, and all three people had different opinions, but these three people did not fight against each other. Fight means they have conflicts, but all these conflicts are manageable conflicts. Understand this carefully. So in fact, Indian national movement, it in fact taught Indians the tradition of compromise and the tradition of negotiated settlements. Are you following this? This is very, very important. Okay, because in any civil society, okay, not civil society, sir, in any country, if the people have a tradition of, okay, in fact, resolving their disputes without conflict, then it is considered to be a evolved society, sir. Everyone can have difference of opinion, but without fighting against each other, if you can compromise with yourself, then it is considered to be a very good society, sir. And India had this tradition. Okay, so under the same time, there was this person called Shyam Prasad Mukherjee, who was a Hindu right-wing leader. Okay, Nehru था, Subhash Chandra Bose था, Gandhi था. इन लोगों को सबको बहुत differences है. Even despite of their differences, they were able to compromise with each other and coexist with each other, this taught the Indians the tradition of negotiated settlement and compromise. This is one very good contribution. Yes, the tradition of non-violence, it got reflected here. That is the reason why, even though there were numerous conflicts between the central and state governments in India, all the times the conflicts did not lead to violent confrontations, sir. Is it true or not? Okay, we are able to coexist. Yes, yes, this is the case, sir. Yes, any other? Multicultural. Okay, the concept of unity in diversity is also a contribution of Indian national movement. Okay, unity in diversity concept was promoted by the Indian national movement, sir. Then, any other? Be quick to say. Yes. The culture of protest. Yes. Okay, Indian national movement, it taught us the protest of culture of satyagraha. Satyagraha culture is promoted in India by the Indian national movement, sir. So even today, when there is excess of oppression, the tool that Indians resort to is satyagraha rather than violent confrontation with the states. Yes, that is one more contribution of Indian national movement. Any other? See, yes, very good. So in fact, one more contribution of the Indian national movement is the system of reservation for the backward classes of India. It was accepted upon during the time of Pune Pact between Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Gandhi even before independence. And the same system of reservation was continued in our Indian constitution. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? So this is also one more important contribution. Then उसके साथ साथ में any other? Cultural nationalism के हिसाब से, okay, constitutional nationalism they promoted. Yes, that is also good. Okay, constitutional nationalism rather than cultural nationalism. About this point I'll discuss later, sir, because it has some things to explain. So I'll talk about it later. Any other? Is there any negative consequence of Indian national movement post independent India, sir? Positive तो हम लोग बहुत बात किए. Negative contribution है कुछ? Okay, so there is we should not speak about any negative contribution. Okay, so in fact there is no negative contribution, sir, as such. As such, there is no negative contribution of the Indian national movement to post independent India, sir. Yes. Yes. So what you are saying is Indian national movement, it finally led to the power being concentrated in the hands of Nehru. So which led to, okay, so sidelining of some important leaders and their contribution to Indian national movement. But that is not a limitation of the Indian national movement, it is a limitation of the leadership, sir. उसमें Indian national movement का क्या कसूर है? There is no blame for the Indian national movement. So that is mainly blamed on the post-independent Indian leadership. उन लोगों का जो प्रॉब्लम था वो इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट को एट्रीब्यूट करना उतना सही नहीं होगा. ओके, बट वन मोर थिंग दैट वी कैन टॉक ऑफ इन इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट इज वन नेगेटिव ऑफ इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट इज इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट it led to creation of a government which is all powerful, sir. This is one important negative contribution. The government started taking up a very important role in post-independent Indian polity, okay, rather than the people, sir. Centralizing tendency. Okay, government became all powerful in post-independent India primarily because of Indian national movement, sir. So this centralizing tendency, it affected and undermined the state's independence. Yes, state's autonomy it undermined. Then apart from that, people's initiative also it undermined, sir. क्योंकि आप लोग ने सोशलिज्म के ऊपर जाके आप लोग क्या बोला, गवर्नमेंट इज गोइंग टू प्ले द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन द इकोनॉमी. देन व्हाट अबाउट पीपल? प्राइवेट सेक्टर को अंडरमाइन कर लिया यहाँ पे, तो वो नेगेटिव कॉन्सिक्वेंस हो सकता है. एक्सेसिव सेंट्रलाइजेशन इज ए नेगेटिव कॉन्सिक्वेंस. दैट इज द ओनली नेगेटिव कॉन्सिक्वेंस ऑफ इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट, सर. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस देयर इज नन एल्स. क्लियर? Making sense? So this is when yes, that is an outcome. Okay, so it is their contribution, not the contribution of Indian national movement.
Literally, mainstream narrative that is taking up in mind that those leaders constantly, persistently demonized in today's time.
Which leaders? Like Nehru family? Okay, they are demonized in today's world. Okay, yes, they are demonized. See, but the thing is, earlier they were, okay, made into gods, sir. Okay, now what we have to do is we need to find a balance between these two perspectives. They are also human beings. Okay, so earlier they were made into gods. Now they are being projected as demons. Okay, so पहले जो भगवान थे अभी वो भूत हो गए. So this transition is something which is a clear-cut historical transition, sir. The study of history itself is changing. I told you. Yes. Okay, but the thing is, definitely they are neither gods nor evil, sir. They are human beings and they have been given political power, and what they have done with the power is something which we are going to study about, sir. They means their descendants. See, India is also one way unique, sir, where hereditary rule is associated with democracy, sir. That shows the Indian mindset. आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि कहीं पे भी डेमोक्रेसी में हेरिडिटरी रूल नहीं होते, लेकिन इंडिया even with the democracy also people preferred the kind of dynastic rule, sir. Democracy and dynastic rule coexisted in India. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? Democracy and dynastic rule, both of them, they coexisted in India together, sir. They did not separate. Even when given a democratic choice, the people of India, they chose the dynastic leaders, sir. Okay, that shows Indian ideal of, I'll tell you one thing, sir. So this is all because of the Indian idea of trust, sir. You following this? Okay, no one voted to Indira Gandhi because of her brilliant policies. They voted to her because she is the daughter of Nehru. Same is the case with Rajiv Gandhi. Are you following this? So because in India, democracy is introduced even before the electorate got educated, sir. This is one deficiency of the universal adult franchise is this. What happened is democracy, before people got enlightened, they were given democratic rights. That is the reason why in India, the voting is primarily done on trust and emotion rather than on the rational analysis of the policies of the leaders. सही है कि नहीं? Yes. So it is mostly done on the emotion and the trust on the leadership rather than on the rational evaluation of the policies, sir. No, huh? Liquor and money also play a very important role. That is emotion, sir. Okay. So emotions, other word is liquor and money. So that is a different thing. So so these are the things. Okay. So now let's have a look at this section once. Okay. So then let's have a look at the handout, and if any additional point is there, I'll dictate it. Marxist history dominated in post-independent India. That is not exactly Marxist, sir. Okay, that is in fact Nehruvian history. Okay, that is different. Okay, so not exactly Marxist. So you might be knowing about these people called Bipin Chandra. So Modern India book, even today also it is prescribed for UPSC preparation, but I ask you people not to read. Okay, then after that Satish Chandra is one more. Then R.S. Sharma. Okay, so these people, what they did is they created a history, okay, in such a way that by reading their books you have to go and vote for Congress party directly, sir. There is no other way out for you. Glorifying. Okay, ये तीनों का बुक कैसा है कि वो बुक पढ़ना है, सीधा बैलेट बॉक्स पे जाके कांग्रेस पे छापना है बस. ये दूसरा कहीं इस तरफ उस तरफ भी देखना भी नहीं. So that kind of history has been written and it has been taught as NCERT textbooks for an extended period of time in India, sir. Okay, education itself got politicized. But now when it is being rewritten, people are saying that अरे आप लोग तो पूरा communalize कर रहे हैं. अरे आप लोग पहले तो आप लोग ने ही this, you are the people who have taught the tools in order to use history in order to get political power, sir. Now when the others are using, then you have a problem. कि पहले आप यूज किया तब कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं था, अभी दूसरे लोग यूज कर रहे हैं. नाउ saffronization of history, communalization of Indian history, these are wrong terms, sir. See, now it's not about communal conflict, sir. It's all about politics, power. Who says what has to be done, sir? People in power. They are the patrons. So patronage was given to the right kind of history, which in fact can, see, I'm not saying, don't take me wrongly, sir. See, I am against both practices. Saffronization of history is also bad. Then at the same time, the history which excessively focuses on, the excessively focuses on the contribution of a particular family to the history is also wrong. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? दोनों तरफ से wrong है. What I'm trying to say is we need to, in fact, history should be a search for real truth. Unbiased perspective should be there. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? Okay, see, I'll tell you, this R.S. Sharma, when writing ancient Indian history, he done a detailed description of the Mauryan age history. And the Mauryan age history, it provided the psychological support for planning and excessive centralization in Indian economies. Government's role in Indian economy, its background or the psychological backing for it is provided by R.S. Sharma through his Mauryan history. आपको समझ में आ रहा है कैसे किया? So it is very very fine tuned system, sir. ऐसा नहीं कि okay, लोग see any narrative when it is being built. I'll tell you one simple thing, sir. Any narrative when it is being built, if it is clearly known to the people that this is a narrative, then people will consider it as a propaganda, sir. But if the narrative projects itself as a truth, then people will start believing in it. And once people believe in narrative, it is very difficult to change the people who believe in a particular narrative, sir. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? Okay, so that is how a very fine-tuned system of propaganda and narrative has been established earlier too, and now it is being reversed, and this is leading to conflict, sir. समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं आप लोगों को? Yes. So this is important, sir. So leave it be. So now have a look at this section. So we'll finish this, and after that we will take a break. Okay. So just a few minutes more it will take. How to change the. So Indian national legacy, national movement's legacy. Just see them, sir. Vision for the future. Many a times rights were promised to the people. Okay, Karachi session 1931, fundamental rights and economic rights of the people are guaranteed. फाइजपुर सेशन ऑफ 1936 रूरल एरिया में कंडक्ट किया था और इसमें peasants rights were promised. Do you understanding this? Then after that reservation was already agreed upon through the Pune Pact. Yes. Then along with that political, social and economic rights were guaranteed by the constitution. Yes. And Indian national movement is a mass based movement and numerous aspirations were aroused of the workers, peasants, women and Dalit sections of the society. Is it clear, sir? So there you write one statement. Indian national movement is a fight for independence and freedom. Is a fight for independence and freedom. Independence and freedom. Stop. You write independence meant end of British rule. End of British rule. But freedom had different meanings to different sections of the society. Different meanings to different sections of society. Meanings to different sections of the society. Okay. Had different meanings to different sections of society. Okay. For example, for a farmer, freedom meant land. Freedom meant land. For a tribal, meant land. For a tribal, freedom meant access to forest resources. Freedom meant access to forest resources. Okay. So etc. you write. Okay, etc. It means that for different sections it meant different things. Okay. So full stop you put after etc. Then after that you write one statement. This freedom, this aspiration for freedom became a vision of the Indian national movement. This aspiration for freedom gave a vision for the national movement. Which gets reflected in our constitution. which gets reflected in our constitution. It's reflected in our constitution and makes it a politico-socio-economic document. Makes it a politico-socio-economic document. Makes it into a politico-socio-economic document. Politico-socio-economic document. समझ में आया आप लोगों को? See, इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट जब ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे थे गांधी जी, तो what he did is he called the Indians to end the British rule, sir. Understand this. But people naturally will ask a question, what happens after the end of the British rule? समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं आप लोगों को? ब्रिटिश रूल एंड तक जो होता है उसको इंडिपेंडेंस मूवमेंट बोलते हैं. And what happens after independence? The promise of what happens after independence is the promise of freedom, sir. कोई कि ऐसा नहीं है कि okay, so suddenly someone comes and tells you, okay, let us end the rule of Modi. So automatically all of you will join together and fight against Modi. ऐसा नहीं होता है ना. मोदी को एंड करने के बाद क्या होगा, ओके, वो बोलना चाहिए आपको, वो प्रॉमिस देना चाहिए. अरे अभी ये प्रॉब्लम है, इसको हम लोग ऐसे सॉल्व करेंगे बाद में. आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं? यस, आर यू फॉलोइंग दिस? सो दिस वे द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ द नेशनल मूवमेंट, इट इन फैक्ट हैड ए प्रॉमिस फॉर द फ्यूचर, सर. And that promise for the future itself became the promise of freedom, and that became part of our constitution. Every effort that was taken up by the post-independent Indian government, ranging from land reforms, okay, to planning, everything is an exercise in fulfilling this promise, sir. Clear? Okay, so this is important. So then after that, now see this, sir. So political, social and economic rights were guaranteed by the constitution. Indian national movement was a mass-based movement. Numerous aspirations were aroused of workers, peasant, women and Dalit. Okay, and Indian national movement was based on democracy and civil liberties for people. Yes, Indian national movement is based on trust in the masses, sir. Okay, so that is the reason why immediately we went for universal adult franchise. You following this, sir? So because we had a trust in the masses itself, that's the reason why we went for universal adult franchise, and it is the first third world country to go for this, sir. So it is the first third world country to go for this. Then India became a self-reliant independent economy, Swadeshi goods. Okay, and this self-reliance is usually called as autarky, sir. Autarky means self-reliance. Same thing, a different word, sir. Development of industry and agriculture on scientific lines. Okay, because in Indian national movement itself, science is given a very important position in Indian national movement, sir. Understand this carefully. From the time of Swadeshi movement itself, an emphasis on science is always present in Indian national movement, sir. Primarily because the leadership of Indian national movement, they strongly believe that science is going to only provide the solutions for all Indian problems, sir. Are you following this? It is the only solution for all Indian problems, and science is projected as the magic bullet which can save India from poverty and the numerous problems that Indian society was facing, sir. Are you following this? That is the reason why the Indian national movement always gave a lot of importance to science. So that got translated into Jawaharlal Nehru's importance for science. Yes. So that is the reason why India today, even though, okay, many Western media even today are saying when Indians don't have toilets, when Indians don't have food to eat, why are they launching a mission to moon? Are you following this? Why? That is primarily because we had always given science a lot of significance, sir. And science is considered as a magic bullet which can solve all the problems of Indian society. Are you following this? We always projected a science which is socially responsible science, sir. Socially relevant science is something which we projected always. We never projected science for science sake. Are you getting this? Okay, so this is one important thing. Development of industry and agriculture on scientific lines. Scientific temperament became important. Science is considered as a magic bullet for all the problems of India. Is it clear? So then after this, small scale and cottage industries, KVICs, Khadi and Village Industries Corporation. Okay, so but the majority of the funds went to heavy industrialization, sir. Then along with that, restructuring of agriculture relations. So we did this. Land reforms is restructuring of agricultural relations, because 70% of the agricultural land is owned by non-agricultural classes. We cannot continue the same way, sir. So that is what we did immediately after independence. Then state role and planning. National Planning Commission, it was established in the Tripuri session of 1939 itself. Then Indian national movement had a pro-poor orientation and socialism. and this socialist pattern of society, India accepted in its Avadi session in 1956, sir. Post independence May, we wanted to go for this socialist pattern of society. Clear? Then after that, secularism, there was opposition to communalism in India. Then there was a strong belief in the concept of unity in diversity. Ideals of social reform were present. Then along with that, there is also a strong belief that India is a nation in making, sir. Okay, this nation in making is a constant idea during Indian national movement. They believe that India is not a full-fledged created nation, sir. And in India, the national spirit and national unity should be continuously promoted is one idea which Indian national movement gave to India, sir. That is the reason why in post-independent India also we try to continuously focus on the backward regions of India, spend more money there, but try to bring them on par with the developed regions. Why are we doing this? Primarily because we feel or we believe in this concept of nation in making, and in order to promote this nation in making itself, we try to bring about a uniform development of all the regions, sir. Clear? Okay, so even though there are some complaints, some criticisms saying that, okay, for every rupee that a state contributes, how much they are getting back is a debate today, right? Yes or no? Yes, but despite of this debate, we are trying to promote this idea of uniform economic development because we believe that in India, the principle of nationality or nationalism, it should be constantly promoted, sir. India is not a completely formed nation. The principles of national unity, they should be continuously nurtured among the people is one important contribution of the national movement, sir. Clear? Okay, so this way the contributions of national movement are too many, sir. So I think I have covered all the points here. Did I miss any? I did not miss any, right? Whatever points I discussed, they are present here. So then after that, you write one statement, sir. Indian national movement gave state a very important role. State means what? Government. State means government. Okay, don't confuse it with the states of India today. State means government. Indian national movement gave government a very important role. Leading to excessive centralization. And undermining of individual initiative. And undermining of individual initiative. Initiative means individual. Initiative means what, sir? What is the meaning of initiative? Initiative. So initiative. खुद का कुछ करने का जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि सबके लिए हमारे पास गवर्नमेंट है. कि कोई भी प्रॉब्लम आया, सर उठा के गवर्नमेंट के पास देखो. खाना नहीं मिला, गवर्नमेंट के पास देखो. कपड़ा नहीं मिला, government. मकान, government. Everything should be done by the government. So this kind of state centricism is something which was promoted by the Indian national movement, and in post-independent India also we have the same thing, sir. And if the Americans face the same problem, usually the Americans try to solve those problems themselves, so without an help from the government, sir. Because American polity and constitution is based on the principle of fear of government. Understand this carefully. Americans did not have given this kind of significance to the government, sir. Their entire polity is based on fear of government, sir. Fear of government means what? Government should never interfere in my personal space. Are you following this? That is the difference between the American and Indian constitution too. There they place a lot of restrictions on state. Here we give complete powers to the government, sir. समझ में आया? Okay, take a break for half an hour, and after the break we are going to continue the class. So I think you are able to understand, right? Should I use more Hindi, sir? It's okay, right? No problem. Okay, so if need be, I can try to use more Hindi too. Okay, so try to. I'm not like a native speaker of Hindi, not very good at the language, but I can manage some Hindi. No need? Okay, so it's fine. So, but take the printouts, sir. That would be useful for you. Take the printouts.